Mike Storey is back. We just had a hell of a 6-minute show. Some technical difficulties. We're back. We're talking AFC South. First episode of an 8-part series we're doing. All the divisions twice a week for the next month. Tune in for those because we're talking fantasy. We're talking landscape. We're talking depth charts. All that kind of stuff. Storey, this was actually the first, not this division in particular, but this is the first show that we ever did on the channel, me and Kappa. Way back in the day, we were going to do the NFC. And it was our first show. We ended up getting through one division in 2.5 hours.
Well, I mean, how long do you expect it to go tonight? Like, we got a lot to talk about.
It was just funny that we planned on doing the entire NFC.
Oh, okay.
And that was the plan. And then we ended up getting through one division. In the last 15 minutes of the show, we were talking about Trevor Bauer when the allegations came out. And on record, I said that I said Trevor Bauer's innocence and like blah, 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 and ended up playing out. He's still getting blackballed right now, though.
Wow. Sure. He is. And it's probably going to be another couple of years before that whole thing blows over.
Yeah, at that point, he'll be too old to pitch. So he made a lot of money, though. He made like $200 million. I don't know how much money he had to pay on lawyer fees, but got a couple news notes I want to get to before we move on to the division here. So we talked about Brissett a little bit. I didn't hear what you had to say, but I'm sure it was awesome. Alvin Kamara. So Saints GM Mickey Loomis says the team is trying to see how Alvin Kamara will fit in the offense. This does not seem great. He has a $10.4 million cap hit Story. So it's Saints or bust for Kamara, right? That's what he's been saying all along.
He has said from the beginning that he does not want to be traded. If he gets cut, he's just going to retire. Now, when push comes to shove, we'll see if that actually materializes. He could be a veteran signing if they cut him during camp. Somebody could swoop in and pick him up. But this feels like all wheels up for Travis Etienne.
How much, if Kamara retires or, they trade him for some reason, he goes somewhere else, how much higher would you rank Etienne? Currently going in the mid to early third round. Would he sneak up into the second round for you?
Probably, because what's behind Etienne if Kamara's not there? Devin Neal, who was underwhelming, and Kendre Miller, who has a difficult time staying healthy and is actually not that good of a running back. Yeah, I think go ahead and take him in the second round. He should be a workhorse running back. And if they utilize him like they utilized Kamara during those prime years, I know that was a different head coach, but they seem to really enjoy that system there. It could be a really good runway for Etienne this year. Maybe 12 total touchdowns. That'd be nice.
Yeah, for me, I'm more just interested in the pass catching, right? Like that's where the money's made. The touchdowns will come. It's not a sticky stat, right? And he's going into a similar spot, right? I think Jacksonville is probably a better situation last year, but Trevor Lawrence was taking all those rushing touchdowns away from him. So Trevor Lawrence had 9 rushing touchdowns. Tyler Shuck can run, will run. He's not a 9 rushing touchdown type player. I think the offense might be a little bit worse than what they had in Jacksonville last year.
I do think that we need to be mindful of the fact that they didn't really utilize Kamara in a pass catching role like he was his strength for some reason. I'm not really sure what that was. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where it's like, Kamara got 2 targets this week. Okay, why? Why did we not utilize him? And they're trying to run him up the middle. I'm convinced that's why he got injured, but I'm not sure what Kellen Moore's plan there was. So we hopefully kind of learn from that, and that Etienne can actually be a nice pass catching role because. Man, you look at last year, what did Etienne have? Like 350 yards receiving, 30-some receptions, 40 receptions, something like that?
Yeah, it was low on the reception total, but the yards per catch were really high because he was catching some of those wheel routes and scoring. He had like 5 or 6 receiving touchdowns. Next news note, this one's interesting. So Deshaun Watson, the report is that Todd Monken and him have hit it off. You've been pretty adamant that you think Deshaun Watson starting the year. Am I correct on that?
I think so. Yeah, I'm fairly. I mean, when Jimmy Haslam, who's the owner of the Browns, starts talking about he's going to have a fresh start and Todd Monken has a great chance, or that Watson has a great chance with Todd Monken, I got to think that he's the guy, right? I mean, he's 30. He hasn't played since week 6 of 2024. He's going to compete with Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel, our favorite. But it sounds like he's the early favorite to win this job.
What does hitting it off mean with Todd Monken? That's my question. Like, that's not, it's not exactly a guy you want to be like, hey, honey, I'm going to go hang out with Deshaun. We're hanging out. We're having a get guy's day. Like, what the hell does that even mean?
Hey, guys, the management needs everybody to get out because they caught a guy jerking off in here, and they're going to send in a crew to wipe down the loads. Go ahead.
Yeah.
That's hanging out with Deshaun Watson right there on a normal Tuesday afternoon, right?
Oh yeah. He's up there with our regular sex pests like Robert Kraft and well, heck, I guess Peyton Manning at one point.
Definitely Peyton Manning, and now Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel's in that same conversations of guys that just they lead every decision with their penis. That's most men, though. Story. Let's give him a little cut him a little break.
Would it surprise you if Vrabel came out and said that he had a sex addiction like Tiger Woods? It seems like it's a go-to, like get out of jail free card. Like, oh, I've got a sex addiction. Oh, it's not my fault.
I think that's kind of what he said. I mean, in a way, he said he was seeking counseling. So when you seek counseling for something that's not like drug related, that's kind of the same thing, right?
I mean, counseling could be any number of things: addiction counseling, anger counseling, empathy counseling, right? Leadership counseling, any number of things. But the fact that it came out after this whole thing with the reporter leads me to believe that this is an admission of guilt without actually admitting guilt.
Blake says we can make a team out of the sex addicts here. We have a coach, a quarterback, a kicker, Justin Tucker, that is, and an owner. I think Peyton Manning is the backup quarter. Peyton Manning is like the quarterback's coach. We have a whole litany of these guys. Trevor Bauer is like a consultant.
No shortage of sex pests in professional sports.
No, unfortunately. Last news note. We talked about a little bit off air. Stephon Diggs, chance to go back to the Patriots. Does this make a lot of sense to you? Because Demario Douglas is there. Like, they're going to bring in A.J. Brown. Kayshon Boutte is still there. They're probably going to trade him. But they signed Romeo Doubs. Like, what? They drafted Eli Reardon in the fucking third round. Just a lot of pass catchers there. This would be bad for Stephon Diggs, right?
I mean, Reardon, I wouldn't put much stock into him being a fantasy factor or even a pass-catching factor, realistically. It'll be nice for Drake May. Boutte's not at the team facility for the offseason program, which is weird because, I mean, he's eligible for a new contract, but there's no reason that he wouldn't be there. Like, holding out doesn't change anything for him. So, okay. But the thing is, like, what's AJ Brown? Like, is AJ Brown, is this thing with AJ Brown still coming down the pike? Or does that mean now with Diggs, is there some leak that maybe Diggs will be back because maybe the AJ Brown trade doesn't happen? I mean, I'm still of the mindset that I think it will. But I mean, you got to wonder if that's a factor with this Diggs reporting.
If you were the Patriots and you're in a unique situation where they're in win now, but they also have Drake May and a rookie contract and a bunch of young players, would you rather have Stephon Diggs for, call it $10, $12 million a year, pretty much a veteran discount, hometown discounts, or would you rather spend a first rounder to bring A.J. Brown in? Because they're both similar age. I think Diggs is a little older than A.J. Brown, but A.J. Brown's a much better player right now than Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, but Diggs definitely had a role on that team, and he's familiar with the system, and he's familiar with the scheme, familiar with the coaching staff, and he's got some kind of chemistry with Drake May. No deals come to fruition yet with the AJ Brown thing. Now, all signs point to it being after June 3rd or whatever it is. But at this point, like, the signing of AJ Brown doesn't affect compensatory picks. The re-signing of Diggs won't affect compensatory picks. He's going to find a home somewhere. And with a team that's got a third-year guy who played at a high level last year in Drake May and a relatively stable offensive core around him, a team that was, a game away from – I say a game away because they played very poorly in the Super Bowl, but, a game away from winning the Super Bowl, there's worse places that Diggs could go, even if he's an ancillary piece.
Jonathan says Brett Favre as well. We got to add Brett Favre to that list. And Brett Favre's in any list. So shit human being, sexual deviant, piece of shit hillbilly. Like, Brett Favre could be in any list we want. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I do think that Brett Favre wears little short shorts.
Just accept the fact that you're white trash, all right? Take a look at yourself. You can't do backflips. You don't know karate. You're white trash.
You're white trash too, dude. Look at those shorts are white trash.
Do not call the shorts white trash. Dennis told me about these shorts, and they're not white trash. Look at this. Look at this. Look what I can do. What does
white trash about that. Don't call me white trash. I feel like if I had that kind of mobility, I'd be capable of almost, well, pretty much anything.
Did you see the Brett Favre doc they had on Netflix?
No, I did not. That guy sickens me. He's a terrible human being.
Yeah, he's pretty terrible. It wasn't. It's interesting, but I don't know. It's just the whole thing with the reporter. He essentially ended her career because she accused him of something he did, and just really creepy stuff. And then obviously we all know about the stealing money from a charity, and very diabolical, right? It was very diabolical. And like Brett Favre, you have $400 million. What are you doing? You can't do the CTE thing. Like, I don't know. He's not Jim McMahon. He still wears his shoes, at least.
Yeah. Well, he also wears Crocs. But I mean, this wasn't just a charity. This was stealing money from welfare individuals. There's a whole, like, the whole welfare case is disgusting to me. Stealing money from people who, I mean, stealing money from many charities is terrible, but stealing it from people who legitimately need it, you know, who are in dire straits. It's horrible. Just horrible.
Yeah, that's his. I'm thinking of the band Dire Straits. That's Brett Favre just dancing to
Money
Dire
for
Straits
nothing.
with his money.
Money for nothing.
Yeah, tricks for free, man. All right, let's get into the division story. The division AFC South. On Thursday, I believe we're gonna do both Souths. We're gonna do the NFC South on Thursday. We're starting with the shittiest divisions and working our way up towards the end and more interesting stuff. But that being said, a lot of fantasy goodness, a lot of fantasy nuggets for you guys here. And there's gonna be a lot of fantasy relevant players on these teams. Give me your little your pulse of the division. So you did your rundown last Thursday on your projected records, who's gonna win the division. Just give me your pulse. And also, did the Titans have an actual chance to go last to first?
No, absolutely not. I would love them. And they have made the most moves out of basically anybody in the NFL this offseason. I love what they've done, but this is still going to be a rebuilding year. This division itself is challenging. It's been unpredictable for years, right? So the Texans went from winning 11 games over 3 years to winning the division behind the arm of CJ Stroud when he was a rookie. And that they won a playoff game that year. And then the Jaguars kind of come on out of nowhere under Liam Cohen. They engineer a dramatic turnaround. It was looking like Trevor Lawrence, that generational prospect, was a bit of a bust. And then he goes on and has an outstanding, they win the last 6 games last year. This the top of this division is going to be pretty topsy-turvy. Indianapolis was cruising up until the Daniel Jones injury. This is he's on the mend. It remains to be seen, what his status is at the start of this year. And then the Titans absolutely loaded up in both the draft and in offseason free agency. So I still, I'm going to stick by my preview of what I said, but this one is really tough to call, I think.
The Jags lost a lot of pieces, man. And I can see both ends of it, right? Liam Cohen might be that dude. If Liam Cohen's a dude, doesn't really matter who they lose. Coach trumps talent, and he's going to get the most out of Trevor Lawrence. But if Trevor Lawrence isn't the guy, like, no coach can make a subpar, even an average quarterback with average talents win the division, have 13 wins, because they won 13 games last year. They won 8 in a row. So I understand that. And the Colts, I think the Colts have no shot. Honestly, the Colts just lost too much. I think it's a 2-horse race, and the Texans I like their offseason. The Texans defense plays. CJ Stroud is better than what he's played. I think he's better.
So we'll get into it, but there's one thing that I think the Texans are missing that would lock them in as the favorite in this division. But to get to the Jaguars, they lost a lot of pieces on defense. Their defense is going to be rough this year, right? They lost Devin Lloyd. They lost Andrew Wingard. So in and of itself, their offense is mostly the same. You lose Travis Etienne, you replace him with Chris Rodriguez. So now who's the pass catcher there? His cast of characters is mostly the same around him. How much does Travis Hunter play? Yeah, it's a pretty complete offense, but are there stars on this team is the question outside of Trevor Lawrence. And is he actually a star? One season does not a star make. Well, a lot of question marks remain with everyone in this division in general.
All right, let's start with the Texans story. And the Texans went 12-5 last year. They had a pretty rocky start. And they got it together, and they won a lot of those games without CJ Stroud, which was pretty interesting. That kind of got their season kickstarted. Their defense is elite. 404 points forward, 295 points against. Elite defense. Best pass rush in the league. Love their secondary. They're all 3 levels type defense. Offensive line could be a little better, I mean, it has to be better, right? It can't be any worse than what it's been, or could it get worse?
I mean, I think this offensive line finally looks like a quality unit. Last year was, I mean, it was bad, not as bad as we remember. They were actually ninth best in sacks allowed, allowing 31 sacks. But the prior year, they had 54 sacks against, which is third worst in the league. But so they got, and I don't know how to pronounce this guy's first name, but Ariante Ursay. So that's their premier left tackle now. But they signed Wyatt Teller and Braden Smith. And then they drafted Nick Caserio. I'm sorry, the general manager, Nick Caserio. He drafted Kalen Rutledge from Georgia Tech, who's probably going to move to center. So now all of a sudden, you replace 4 guys on this offensive line, 3 of whom are veterans, one of whom was highly touted coming into the draft. This offensive line, I think, is going to be a strength of this unit. Is it going to be top 3? Probably not, but I can see this being a top 10, top 12 unit, which they're going to be great in run blocking. So David Montgomery, I think, is going to be plenty of opportunity here for Dale Montgomery. I think they're going to be pretty nasty in the trenches this year.
All right, I got some stats for you. Interesting stats that caught my eye about the Texans last season. So CJ Stroud's adjusted completion rates per Pro Football Focus has declined every year. So not only has the eye test gotten worse, his best year was his rookie year. It's gotten worse every year and kind of bottomed out there in the 2 games in the playoffs, specifically the semifinal game or the divisional game. That was fucking awful. That was the worst thing I've ever seen.
That was rough for a lot of people in the Texans.
They should have won that game. If he just plays a B- game, they win. He played an F. That might have been an F- story. That's not really a grade they give out in school, but that should have been that's an F-. That was awful. You're gonna love this next one story. Woody Marks ranked 51st in terms of running backs with 90 plus carries last year. And it was 46th in yards per carry, 34th in rush yards over expected per attempt, 46th in yards after contact, 45th in missed tackles forced, and 43rd in Pro Football Focus rushing grade.
Yeah.
Those are his ranks among the 51 running backs. That's all in the mid to high 40s.
Yeah, I mean, if you were managing Woody Marks last year, you felt the pain. It was everybody thought it was wheels up for him. Everybody thought that he got the opportunity. And he was going to perform when he got the opportunity, and the volume was there. The volume was not lacking, but the efficiency was horrendous. The actual yards that were created was horrendous. He did score a few touchdowns here and there, but he also spent a lot of time off the field with injuries. He's going to play a complementary role, a pass-catching role to David Montgomery this year. He's not going to be the bell cow back, and he was never designed to. He should never have been thrown in that role. He doesn't have the body type for it. So, yeah, it was a nice – we were all hoping that Woody Marks was going to be that breakout player, that pickup of the year, and he just never materialized.
So those of you that were back in the early days of the streams last year, we had the running joke that Woody Marks is back in the 10 again. I text you text me every time we're watching Red Zone, just Woody Marks in the 10s, and then he'd always come back. And I think one game he missed. Didn't come back after the 10th, we were joking about it like 3 games in, and it was he pretty much starting like week 4. So week 7, week 8, we're like, oh my God, this is insane. And literally it kept on happening until the end of the season. And it looks like a season-ending injury. He's in the 10th, and then literally he misses 1 series and he's back on the field.
Yeah.
Like, he owns it, man.
So like 2nd or 3rd game into this, I've got him in a big money league, and he's my RB2. So, your RB2 goes down early. That's a blow to your week right off the bat. Every week counts when you're talking big money league. And, I start complaining, and by week 4, I'm just like, we'll be back. On week 6, the 6th week in, he's holding his ankle. It looks like it's, his ankle's about to fall off. He limps over to the tent, and he's back on the sideline with his helmet. Even the announcers by the end of it were making light of the situation. It was weird.
Dude, he reacted like more aggressively towards those injuries, almost all of them, than Tyreek Hill did when he shattered his entire leg. You know what I mean? I think when that point, when you have such a major injury, you're in shock. But like Woody Marks is just like screaming and hobbling and crying and like just back in the field. So all those stats I just read out to you, Storey, mixed with the fact that they, even before the blue tent incident, remember how I don't think it was Liam Cohen, but the GM was like, we view Woody Marks as a pass catching running back, as a 3rd down back. And that's before all the injury stuff. So this is why you bring in a guy like David Montgomery, where Woody Marks can just be slotted in. And they didn't really use him in the passing game last year. They didn't use anyone in the passing game last year because CJ Stroud, I don't know. You'd think he would check the ball down. He just doesn't do that. So I like Woody Marks as a handcuff, though, and I think he's going to be somewhat of one of those more playable handcuffs than some of the other guys. Like we've seen, like, Brian Robinson last year for the Niners wasn't playable. I think Woody Marks would have some appeal in PPR.
I agree to that, and like I said, I think that the defense, as nasty as it was last year, like they basically maintained what they had last year. So the defense, this team should be ahead in games. You should get some respite for David Montgomery. He's a year older. I agree. I think that he's going to be one of those more playable ones, maybe to the level of like Tyler Algier. He's not going to be like the goal line back, but in terms of pass catching, opportunities are certainly abound. And especially with how, I guess I mentioned it in the intro, I guess the one glaring weakness is the playmakers outside of Nico Collins, right? Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, they're fine. A lot of question marks there. You're getting Tank Dell back. What's his health look like? He will look awesome to start his career. I think it's fourth. No, this would be his fifth. I think they picked up his option. And then you got Dalton Schultz. Fine. Okay. There's not really a whole lot there. This team feels like, do they have the firepower to they have the firepower to win the division or get a wild card? Do they have the firepower to actually make a deep run in the playoffs? And I'm not so sure they do if Tank Dell is still reeling from that injury.
So I want to get in this wide receiver room in a second. I have two more stats that are wide receiver related. So Nico Collins registered 3-year lows last season in yards per route run and Pro Football Focus receiving grade. But both marks still ranked him 9th among 76 qualifying receivers. So his worst year in 3 years is still 9th among 76 receivers. You see that as a good thing, right? Like if this is his bad year, and I think he was hurt towards the end of the year too, because they stopped playing him a full snap share.
I'm not sure. Did he miss any games last year, or did he play every single game?
I think he missed one game. It was one game. He missed one game because I remember I streamed Jalen Noel or something, and he missed one game, but then he came back and just wasn't the same, and his snap share went from typically 88 to 90% down to like 66, and the rest of the year he was playing 2/3 of the snaps only, and Higgins was actually out snapping him.
Yeah, I mean, even missing a couple of games, even with a third-year unproductive CJ Stroud, he still had 1,100 yards receiving last year. So his bad year is still a great year by any stretch. The problem is, again, who's that second receiver? Who's the slot receiver? I kind of have a little hope the more I dug in. I like Marlon Klein. I think he got drafted highly because of where Colson Loveland went last year, but his 40 time was slow, but you go back and watch some of the game film, he certainly plays a lot faster than that. So I think there's some opportunity for him there. I hope that Tank Dell can get back. He's certainly a valuable piece, and CJ Stroud loved going to him. You could also look to see a veteran get signed for a 1-year deal here. We talked about Stephon Diggs earlier. Keenan Allen is still floating around out there. There's a couple guys that could still be added to this roster in the offseason.
Agreed. Let's check out the Texans depth chart here and just chat about these guys from a fantasy lens. So it's Montgomery and Woody Marks. Jawar Jordan is an undrafted player. So it's just those two guys. Nico, Jaden Higgins, Tank Dell. They're listing Tank Dell as the 3. And then Jalen Noel and Xavier Hutchinson. They love their Ohio or Iowa State guys. And then my guy, Lewis Bonds, who I'm a big fan of. I'm going to give you the ADPs here of just this entire offense. So let's just chat about this for a second. So CJ Stroud going quarterback 23. Now offers nothing on the ground and just, I feel like better real life quarterback than fantasy quarterback. But you think that's pretty fair?
I could see taking him in that range and platooning him with a high upside, like a high upside guy who's being drafted in like the 13 to 16 range. You know what I'm saying?
No, Malik Willis.
Where's Malik Willis being drafted?
Quarterback 18.
Okay.
So this is more of a super flex thing because I think CJ Stroud's not on he's not going to be on the radar. He could be a streaming option later in the year, but in terms of drafts, you're not drafting CJ Stroud.
No,
I redraft.
You're probably right. I mean, unless your team, you got deep rosters and your league is really quarterback heavy, that would be the only case.
And also best ball, so he is getting, obviously every quarterback is drafted in best ball. So sure. I don't mind the price. I just, best ball I'm shooting for spike weeks, and CJ Stroud just doesn't have those. But he did have those when Tank Dell was around. So Tank Dell could change these things. Let's get to the running backs real quick before we get to wide receivers. David Montgomery, RB20. This is half PPR. Woody Marks, RB44. I kind of like both those prices, but I might be the highest on David Montgomery in the world. I want David Montgomery on all my teams this year if I can get him.
Yeah, I mean, adding Teller to the Texans' offensive line is going to give them some nastiness in the run game, right? His run blocking was highly touted by Pro Football Focus last year, so I expect that this run game is going to be very on the upswing. And David Montgomery at running back 20 with Marks in a complementary role, you could do a lot worse, right? I mean, RB20 is probably being drafted where? In the 7th, 8th round?
No, well, I'm going off underdog. No, typically RB20 is off by the 5th round.
Oh, okay.
Everyone's going robust RB these days, Storey.
Well, that's true. I need to readjust my thinking, right? Like I haven't looked at ADPs yet, so I would guess based on the last 2 years that running backs have probably been really steamed up boards.
See, what I'm hoping is that I play a lot of full PPR. I'm hoping that people are going to see David Montgomery and look at his pass catch in the last couple of years, which hasn't been terrible, but it's been like, 31 receptions, 27 receptions, and they're going to fade him a little bit more in PPR, where I think the comparison is Joe Mixon 2 years ago with this team. I think David Montgomery has 50 catch potential because he's going to be playing all the snaps, and he's a dude. Go back to that Bears year. Didn't he have like 60 plus catches with the Bears?
I don't remember. Maybe
it was 60. Blake, check that out for us. What was David Montgomery's high? I think it was like 64 catches with the Bears. So he has the chops. He's not great. It's mostly just dump downs, but great pass blocker. Like he's going to see the field a lot, and the goal line stuff's undeniable. But I feel like this is not a Derrick Henry situation where you're looking at 13 receptions. Like David Montgomery's catching 30 balls, the bare minimum.
I mean, again, you mentioned that CJ Stroud doesn't really check down. I think 30 is pretty aggressive. I think it's a really aggressive total, right? Like they've got Woody Marks there. I think they're pretty comfortable running a 2-back system. As you mentioned, Gerard Jordan, Oregon State, undrafted. He was really productive at Oregon State. It's surprising he never got drafted. But yeah, I think 30 is still pretty aggressive.
54 in Chicago that 1 year.
Okay, wow.
But he still was having 30 plus reception seasons with Jimmy. I know Jared Goff just checks the ball, the fuck out of the ball. But I'm just saying, in limited playing time, he had 42 the next season with Chicago, and then he's been down to like the low 30s. But that's with 45% of the snaps. What do you project Montgomery's snaps year? 65% this year minimum?
Yeah, that seems exactly in line with what I would expect. 65% for this team. I think you're going to get a lot of running. I mean, they scored. How many points did they score last year? 404. Yeah, that seems about right because they're probably only going to give up about 325.
But game script is great. And let's not forget, guys, they traded for David Montgomery. It wasn't a pickup. They traded for David Montgomery. Like, that's huge. That's huge. So I just love David Montgomery. Let's talk about these wide receivers. Nico Collins, wide receiver 11. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver 54. Tank Dell, wide receiver 80. And Jalen Noel, wide receiver 104. So are you in on Nico? And this is redraft, not dynasty. Are you in on Nico at wide receiver 11?
Yeah, man, I could never quit Nico Collins. That dude is an absolute stud. Like he had a concussion last year, which is not prescriptive for injury. So I know it seems like people think that he's a little injury prone. I think it's all coincidence. I think wide receiver 11, I think you're getting a discount on him. I think this team's going to be better this year. And with the Jaguars being better, with the Titans being better, remember the Titans were 0-6 in the division last year. With the hopefully the Colts are good. Like we could see some more difficult games for them. Might lead to more passing. I like Collins at 11.
And then Higgins at 54. We'll get to your guys' comments here in a second. Higgins at 54 seems fair. My issue with Higgins is he's the same type of player of Nico Collins, and they're going to see the field together. But when they have both those guys out there, I'm not saying neither they're slow guys. That's why Tank Dell is so big for this offense. You need someone to stretch the field. And neither of these guys, even Nico Collins, he does catch bombs, but he's not a burner. And Higgins is definitely not a burner. So, and their tight end's a dinosaur. So, like, you need to have some kind of speed in the field. If you have David Montgomery as your running back, like, what's keeping the defense from being in the box is my question.
Tank Dell.
So, Tank Dell needs to come back. Wide receiver 80, definitely love that. And then we have Dalton Schultz.
Right? You're not drafting anybody else on this team.
No. Under Dalton Schultz, when I wrote down the ADP, I just wrote tight end and then tight end 23, just because it's Dalton Schultz. He didn't deserve his name getting written down. It must have been an accident by me. If you're talking about a best ball situation, are you comfortable taking him at the end of the tight end twos?
I mean, probably not. Like, what's the realistic upside for Dalton? So I know he dealt with a ton of injuries.
Touchdowns, right? Touchdowns.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess there is that. I mean, you'd have to be your third tight end, and you would really need to have nobody else around that you think, because that's such a, I know that touchdowns feel like upside, but that's such a floor play for a guy that really doesn't catch a lot of passes.
Dalton Schultz or TJ Hawkinson? I think I know your answer.
It's Schultz.
No, way off, buddy. Let's get to a couple comments here. Hetzer says, is this CJ Stroud's do or die season? I'm going to let you take this because I have a pretty passionate opinion on this one.
No, I don't think so. I mean, he's pretty much locked in there as a starter. I know that Davis Mills played well in spot starts last year, but they drafted CJ Stroud, and the way he performed, they won a playoff game with him last year, right? They won 12 games.
They've won a playoff game every year of CJ Stroud's career.
Yeah, this is not a do or die. Like, even if the team takes a step back this year, it's Stroud for the foreseeable future.
The way I want to think about it is, in this division, which team would not want CJ Stroud over their current starter?
Exactly.
Indianapolis definitely wants CJ Stroud over Daniel Jones, coming off Achilles. The Jaguars, as much as we love Trevor Lawrence, CJ Stroud's younger than Trevor Lawrence, and he's won 3 playoff games. And then the Titans, we're big Cam Ward guys, but I think we want CJ Stroud. They're probably within 1 year of each other in age. So
I'm just gonna look that up. I want to know myself. Stroud is 24. Cam Ward was an old prospect.
23.
23. So
think about that. One guy has won 3 playoff games in 3 separate years, and one guy had a pretty raw rookie year with a shitty team, mind you. But that's the CJ Stroud thing. As much as I'm a CJ Stroud hater, this is a franchise quarterback that's just had some rough situations. And it's just wild we say how rough the situations are, and they keep on winning playoff game story. Road playoff games, typically.
Yeah. They have not picked up his 5th-year option, Stroud's 5th-year option yet, have they? I don't think so, right?
No, but they have to, dude. I mean, Look at what the Dolphins signed Tua. Like, these teams signed because they don't want to lose him for nothing. Team money, bounce back year for Garrett Wilson. Pretty much, I would say he's going early 4th round now, Storey. He's dropped a little bit because all the acquisitions in the draft, the pass catchers, and Kenyon Sadiq. Pick 40, pick 40, pick 38 for Garrett Wilson, full PPR. Bounce back for Garrett Wilson?
Why would we be considering this a bounce back? Like, when Garrett Wilson was on the field, he performed very admirably last year. I don't know that he's in a position to bounce back, because his entire season was derailed due to injury last year. He was still the primary pass catcher there on that Jets team. He performed very well.
How about this? Will Garrett Wilson finally put it all together, right? And not just live on 170 targets and have empty calories and be wide receiver 26. Like, he's going to get drafted in the mid-teens, late teens for wide receiver. Will he beat his ADP? Will he be a 3rd-round value?
If there's any year that he's going to do it, it's this year with Geno Smith. Geno Smith is a very accurate quarterback. And can Garrett Wilson take the next step? That is a tough question. I think we're going to still see a lot of empty calories from him, a lot of receptions. Sadiq's going to take some of the pressure off. I don't know. I think he's pretty fair being drafted fairly is what I would say.
Team Money says, I'm going to stick with Tucker Kraft. Well, yeah, we're definitely going to take Tucker Kraft over fucking Dalton Schultz. Like, Tucker Kraft also goes tight end 6, tight end 7. So that's not like I'm the biggest Tucker Kraft fan in the world. That's not quite the exercise. TJ Hawkinson is also going the same. Tight end 24. Bums.
All bums. All of them bums.
What's funny is Blake says Garrett Wilson was the leading receiver in yards and missed 9 games. Yep. 9 times, Storey. 9 times.
I told you it was a rough injury year last year. Felt it.
All right. We're going to take a quick break and play the intro for you guys. 30 seconds. We'll be back with the next division. It's going to be the Indianapolis Colts. The next team. Sorry. Indianapolis Colts coming up next. Check out this intro, Storey. You're going to love this.
What episode is that from?
That's the Goobacks episode.
Oh, okay.
Back to the pile. That's the Jaguars receiver room because we don't know what the hell to make of it. And then CJ Stroud's offseason was just pretty much filled with, he didn't hit the gym much. He just went to church a bunch, which we don't really love for fantasy prospects.
I mean, he's a big Jesus guy, so more power.
That was the joke, Story. That was the joke. Not making fun. I'm saying I want my quarterback in the gym and in the film room, not in church all the time. Just because of how, unless he's sneaking in playbooks in church, which I don't think.
Maybe that's the thing. Sneaking in one of those portable TVs with the little, like Homer did in that one episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah, like Back to the Future where he has the porn inside the sports almanac. Something I would do.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the Indianapolis Colts. A couple comments here. First, basketball-related note. We haven't seen a player like Wemby before. 41 and 23 tonight. Insane. That is insane. They beat the Thunder. I hope they beat the Thunder.
They did.
Yeah. No, I hope they beat them for the series, though, I'm saying.
You're saying for the series. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they're up 1-0. They're a heavy underdog. Blake says CJ Stroud might be able to think straight because he cut his dreads off.
Ooh. Or maybe that was the source of his power.
Probably stinky dreads. All right, Indianapolis Colts, gentlemen. Second team here. We're just going alphabetical order. What a wild roller coaster year story. So they went 8-9, but they were 7-1 at one point. And 471 points scored, 466 against. But they were a juggernaut. This was the best top 3 offense after 8 weeks in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't know if they were really trying to win games after Daniel Jones went down. But the addition of Phillip Rivers made them a very unserious franchise. I was all in on what Carly Ursay-Gordon was doing. She was taking notes, but staying out of it. They were coached very well. They were managed very well. And then it's like one injury derailed the entire, not just derailed the season, which to your starting quarterback, generally what's going to happen. But like everybody in that front office suddenly lost their mind. It's an embarrassment to sign Phillip Rivers when you've got at least, you're telling me Phillip Rivers was the best option for this team. So I don't remember why I got on that rant, but I'm unpleased with what the Colts did last year.
And just the fact that they went all in after they knew Daniel Jones was playing with that stress fracture and did the Sauce Gardner trade and trade away their future. When I was saying it the whole year, and maybe I would have been proven wrong when they were 6-1 and 7-1. I was like, I don't believe in this team. I love Daniel Jones is fine, but Daniel Jones, he will get exposed when his left tackle is a little banged up. He doesn't have blindside. He will get exposed, and that's what happened. Mix that with the injury. But they were never a real Super Bowl contender. I know it's crazy to say because the Patriots ended up going to the Super Bowl, but what happened to the Patriots in the Super Bowl? They got fucking blown out. So the Colts would have gotten blown out too. I hated the move for Sauce Gardner. And now they're going to pay. They paid for it this year in the draft. They didn't have a lot of picks. And this defense, we just said they gave up 466 points. Daniel Jones was not playing defense. So you can't blame Daniel Jones' injury on the fact they gave up 466 points. Story, what's going to get better? Like that. Okay, Daniel Jones is healthy now, maybe, but he's not playing defense. So how are they going to improve this defense? Is Sauce Gardner being healthy help this?
So small point of order. They scored 466 points. They gave up 412 last year. Still a lot, but yeah.
Okay, my bad. That's a typo on my end.
Yeah, no worries. I don't think this offseason could have gone worse for the Colts. This was rough. Like the signing of Alec Pierce was weird in and of itself. Gardner should be healthy, but they didn't have a first-round pick due to that trade, and they were hamstrung cap-wise due to Pierce's new deal and Daniel Jones's new deal, a guy who tore his Achilles. They gave an $88 million contract to, despite the injury. So they're going to have to rely heavily on some draft picks because they lost Braden Smith on the offensive side. They lost Michael Pittman. They lost Kwity Paye on defense. They lost Nick Cross. They lost Zaire Franklin. That's a huge loss on defense right there. And their defense wasn't very good to begin with. So I guess that the signing of Alec Pierce gives them arguably one of the best deep ball threats in the league in Alec Pierce, right? 1,000 yards and just 47 receptions. Can they bump up the reception total? Can this guy be a complete package and put together a 1,400-yard season and 85 catches and and 8 touchdowns or something like that. I think it's going to be tough to do if Daniel Jones is not healthy. But, they've got a couple of good picks in the draft they need to replace, but I think this is going to be very difficult. Like, who do they have besides Alec Pierce? Josh Downs, right? He's got to have to play a bigger role. He looked good his first 2 years, and then he just took a major step back last year. I know people are looking at him as a breakout candidate, but the fact that he took such a big step back, 566 yards last year, leads me to believe that I'm not sure he's the guy. And then Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren actually might be being overlooked due to Colston Loveland's end of the year. But yeah, they do have some cap space. That's the one thing. So they can be aggressive if the market opens up, if somebody comes on the free agency market. But there's not a lot of guys that I think are going to be difference makers at those positions. This could be a rough year for the Colts.
Let's get to Blake's comment, then I'll get to your sports, Chaz. So trading Pittman's going to hurt them, and I definitely agree with this. They should. Blake thinks they should try to bring in one of the veteran wide receivers, Debo, Keenan Allen, Tyreek, Diggs, someone they could rely on. Debo would be an interesting fit in this offense. I think that's the one that stands out to me because now he's not a one-to-one replacement for Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman scored on 9% of his catches last year, and previous 5 years was 4.4% touchdown percentage. So he was kind of their go-to guy in the red zone. And Debo is that guy you can manufacture touches for and can score, inside the green zone. I feel like that could be somewhat of a replacement there because Tyreek Hill, when is he going to be ready? Stephon Diggs is not a touchdown dude. And Keenan Allen, I think Keenan Allen's just dusty. I don't think he wants to go play anywhere else either.
You think Keenan Allen's waiting for the Chargers to give him a call?
They got too many. Brennan Thompson's there now. They brought in David Njoku. Like, just Keenan, just go retire. Go on Masked Singer again or some shit.
I don't know. I think Keenan Allen would be a nice addition to that wide receiver room. Like, obviously, they got a huge deep ball threat in Alec Pierce. They wanted him to take the next step. Josh Downs is their slot guy. So Keenan Allen as a slot flanker. Keenan Allen plays a lot in the slot. So moving him around the formation, giving him a safety valve outside of Tyler Warren for whomever the quarterback is, hopefully Daniel Jones. I think that'd be a nice addition. I think Debo's over the hill. I think he's pretty dusty. Tyreek, you mentioned, when is he actually going to be ready? And Diggs, I think, has bigger aspirations.
Do you think Daniel Jones is going to be ready to start the season? Sports Jazz doubts it. I think he will be because I think that we said about Indianapolis being a pretty bad franchise. Like, they're going to rush him back because they didn't invest big money in him long term. It's not like this is Patrick Mahomes or, this is not their franchise quarterback. They think he might be, but they're not tied to him. And they're trying to win now with all the draft picks they traded. Like, they need to make this work and they need to make it work soon. And it's these Achilles injuries between George Kittle and Daniel Jones trying to be ready week 1. It's fucking wild. Like, what a world we're living in, Storey.
Yeah, I mean, the Achilles injury was late. It was in early December. I know he had surgery probably a week or two after that. So now you're talking mid-December. I don't know. I haven't heard much on the reporting lately, but we haven't heard much on Mahomes either, other than they're confident that he'll be ready by the start of the season. But medical science, when it comes to injuries have advanced significantly on the Achilles front over the last half decade. Like, there's new treatments and new techniques and new physical therapy related to getting guys ready. There's a new technique where you actually restrict the blood flow to the lower portion of the leg when it comes to Achilles injury. I can't remember why it works, but supposedly it speeds up the process. Yeah, there's something related to that. I was listening to a podcast about
Storey. We got news on Anthony Richardson, though. They said Anthony Richardson still isn't ready from the eye injury, so they're not telling us everything.
Good,
man.
Tell me everything.
Okay, they were both here. They were both inside me. Eduardo was in my mouth and Luther was in my butt.
Oh my God, no, don't tell me everything. What? No, what? Damn it, Bonnie. Eduardo who?
Sanchez.
Holy shit, tell us more.
Then Luther went in Eduardo's butt for a while.
Tell us less. Tell us less.
Then they both completed on each other. I was left out of the finale.
So we have some updates right here.
So I just found a study performed by the National Institutes of Health that the title is "The Effect of Blood Flow Restriction Therapy Following Achilles Rupture and Repair," a randomized controlled trial, and it's measuring whether BFR can minimize the loss of calf strength and muscle volume after an Achilles rupture. Interesting.
Wow. George Kittle's getting that. Hatcher says the Colts have described his rehab as phenomenal, and he's expected to be fully cleared for the start of next summer. I mean, that's usually what they say about everybody, but we'd want to hear that opposed to nothing. And Jonathan says Mahomes posted videos of him golfing last weekend. Does that make you more or less enthused about Mahomes?
Was he walking or was he using a cart?
Either way, golfing is that's a lot of torque on the knee, my dude.
Yeah, I guess. On the knee, though, like, is there really a lot of movement on the knee, like lateral movement? I mean, that's what you have to be worried about as a quarterback.
Right, but you're still planting, and there's still a little twisting. Like, it's better than not golfing. I prefer that. Same with the Colts thing. I mean, these are just puff pieces, though. But the golf thing isn't a puff piece. This is actually facts. So, as a man that has knee injury, I play with my decimated knee golf all the time, so it can be done. But I don't know if he would be doing that if he wasn't doing well in his rehab, right?
I don't think so.
Like his focus should be on getting on the field.
Conspiracy theorists will say the fact that they give a primetime game to the Chiefs in Week 1 means the NFL has inside knowledge as to the recovery timeline, but I doubt that.
Oh, if it's his left knee, Jonathan, mine luckily is my right knee, and I'm a right-handed golfer, so left knee takes a lot more of the shit on the golf swing. So I'm even more enthused about Patrick Mahomes after hearing this report. I love it. I got some stats for you, and then we're going to go through the depth chart and go to ADPs here for the Colts. So Jonathan Taylor, this is pre and post Daniel Jones Achilles injury. So obviously his production went down a little bit. It was week 9 when he had that stress fracture. But I'm going when Daniel Jones is in the lineup and then out of the lineup. PPR points per game through week 13. Before week 13, 24.6 fantasy MVP. After and that was 18.4 expected fantasy points per game. So he was actually 6 points higher per game than what was expected because of those awesome long runs. He was second in PPR points per game and expected. And then after Daniel Jones left, he was 22nd in points per game.
Oh my God.
Like that's second to 22nd when he was still getting the same volume, dude. It was still 22 touches a game for Jonathan Taylor. And that just shows this offense went in the tanker. Tyler Warren as well went in the shitter.
I was going to ask if you did Tyler Warren's numbers as well, because that was rough. He looked like a fantasy MVP, right? Like Tyler Warren, I was banging the drum for Tyler Warren all summer long, and it looked great in the first 8 weeks.
So Tyler Warren averaged 1.95 yards per route through week 13, fourth among tight ends with 30+ targets. That sank to 0.88.
Oh my God.
yards per route run. Week 14 on. That is stark. That's actually crazier than what we heard about Jonathan Taylor just now.
That is wild. So everything relies on, like, okay, they're not bringing back Philip Rivers this year. Like that much. So it's Riley Leonard, right? Because it's not going to be Anthony Richardson,
right?
What's the delta between MVP candidate Daniel Jones and second-year guy Riley Leonard?
Like, how much better is Daniel Jones and Riley Leonard?
That's what I'm saying. Like, were they overperforming? Was Daniel Jones the catalyst?
30%.
Sample size, right?
30% better.
How much?
30%.
So Riley Leonard can at least be, if he's at least serviceable, because there's no argument. Philip Rivers was atrocious. And again, the fact that he stayed on that roster to the end of the year is an absolute joke. But if Riley Leonard is serviceable, if Jones starts on the pup, Riley Leonard can at least be serviceable for these guys to start the year.
They should have started him from the beginning. Like when he went down, like what are they doing, Philip Rivers? Anyways, one last thought on Tyler Warren though.
They could make the playoffs, but again, terrible.
But if you have Philip Rivers, like if you think you're winning, Philip Rivers couldn't win a Super Bowl when he was awesome at 29 years old. Like he's not winning it when he's 44. What the fuck? He's fat as fuck. Like wild. Tyler Warren got 3 carries inside the 5-yard line last year with that Wildcat formation. Check this out. That's more than Bucky Irving, Chuba Hubbard, and Alvin Kamara had. Chuba only had less than 3, and we know Bucky didn't have any. I think Bucky had 1 all year inside the
Well, okay, that stat's a little misleading because 2 of those guys missed significant time with injury.
They're also running backs, though. I mean,
I get it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, all of them missed time. Alvin Kamara missed the whole second half of the year. So those guys all missed time. But the point is, in 7 games or 8 games, a lead running back on the team should have more carries than Tyler Warren. So this is a pro Tyler Warren stat because if you remember back at Penn State, I know you do, Storey. He throws lefty too, and he had multiple touchdown passes. He run the Wildcat, so he's a triple threat back there. And him in the backfield with JT, that's pretty nice right there. Pretty nice.
Yeah, he gives you that element that you're not going to get with a Trey McBride. You might get actually, I take that back. Trey McBride, you might get an end around, right? We did see that a couple times with him, but you're not going to get that with Brock Bowers. You're not going to get that with Colson Loveland, and you're not going to get back with whoever the tight end 5 is. I would guess Harold Fannin.
Yeah, they use Harold Fannin in the backfield quite a bit. So Harold Fannin actually got a couple carries inside. He got a couple carries too. I think he had a rushing touchdown. So Harold Fannin might get that as well. Okay. But it's rare. And like if he has 2 rushing touchdowns, that's just free 12 points, right? That's literally free. And that's a huge, that's almost a point a game, dude. That's a big difference for a tight end.
Yeah, that's why I like Tyler Warren as a now this is a bounce back candidate, right? Because again, the first half of the year was incredible, outperforming expectations, and then obviously the whole offense takes not just step back, they crater around it. So getting him back to the level that we saw I guess it's tough to say bounce back when he's being drafted as a tight end 4 off the board.
Mr. Stiller fan, we love that name. The division will belong to the Jaguars. We're going to get to the Jaguars right after we finish up on the Colts here, but I have a question for you regarding Ben Stiller and Jerry Stiller. Ben Stiller's been involved in a lot of epic movies, right? A lot of, some of the franchises. We love Tropic Thunder, but his dad is beloved to us as George Costanza's father. So who would you want to go without in your life? You can just take one of them off the planet. Obviously, if Jerry Stiller wasn't on the planet, then Ben Stiller wouldn't be alive, but let's just say he didn't act. Do you want to have Ben Stiller in your life or Jerry Stiller specifically just for Seinfeld?
Yeah, that's difficult, but if you don't have Ben Stiller, you don't get Dodgeball, you don't get Tropic Thunder, you don't get any of the Meet Does, you don't get the Meet the Parents series at all. There's a lot of comedy gold that's sitting out there with Ben Stiller. So I got to go
about Mary.
Yeah, I got to go with Ben Stiller. He's done some clunkers too, but man, Tropic Thunder is one of the most underrated comedies of all time.
My favorite Ben Stiller is still Happy Gilmore.
It's pretty good.
I trouble you for warm glasses. Shut the hell up. All right, so ADP for these Colts players here. Daniel Jones, quarterback 25. Jonathan Taylor, running back 4. Alec Pierce, wide receiver 34. Josh Downs, wide receiver 43. Tyler Warren, tight end 4. But the ADP is a little lower than Colson Loveland, who's tight end 3. So as we look at this, it's a very consolidated tree, at least it's how it's being drafted, which we do like, Storey. But we don't know who the hell the wide receiver 3 is on this team. Deion Burke should be the answer, right? But they drafted him in the 7th round. And
it's just a Josh Downs replacement. Like, he's not going to – it's Ashton Doolin, realistically.
Yeah, but that's super gross. And then they don't have a running back 2 right now. And I'm going to lean to DJ Giddens. I know Seth McGowan's the new shiny toy, but both these guys don't have high draft capital. So is there a handcuff to own in this backfield? If you're talking about a deep league, who are you going to put a dart throw on? Is it going to be Giddens or Seth McGowan?
It's probably going to be Giddens still because he was the replacement for Jonathan Taylor. But that position in and of itself, there's more valuable running back handcuffs out there. Jonathan Taylor is a one-of-a-kind talent. And even with that system, we never saw a back. We were talking about like Zach Moss had a game here and there when he was a starter. We never got the kind of production, not even like 70% of what Jonathan Taylor was. So if you have space and there's no other better handcuff, it's probably Giddens. Still, Seth McGowan, big-time disappointment in his draft capital because we liked him during the draft process. He just never got the draft capital. So he's behind Giddens as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree. I think Giddens is definitely a better pass catcher too. And they're just going to go with the second-year guy. I feel like neither of these guys should be rostered, but, in case JT goes down. Tyler Warren, tight end 4, we talked about him. And then we like both these wide receivers at ADP, right? Pierce and Downs.
Because I do. Yeah.
I love Pierce at 34. And Downs, I feel like the gap should be bigger. But Josh Downs on a per route metric basis has always been great. always been great. He just never gets the playing time. And now it's like, if they don't bring in Debo, they don't bring in Keenan Allen, one of these guys, like Josh Downs should be on the field 75 to 80% of the time. And he's been historically like a 50% route participation player.
His first 2 years I thought were really promising. And then again, last year was a huge disappointment. You did still have Michael Pittman there, and the second half of the year was a disappointment for this entire team. But Pierce at 34, like, how do you not love a team's number one wide receiver that just got an absolute bag? Do you think the Colts are paying this guy to not utilize him?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
they're going to do everything they can to make it work and make themselves seem smart. You see teams do this all the time, which is a stupid decision, right? You just got to utilize the guy properly. But and what I loved about Alec Pierce's game last year, I know the numbers don't necessarily say it because it was 47 catches for 1,000 yards, but the first couple of years in the league, he was literally Marquez Valdez-Scantling running fucking go routes exclusively. Last year, they were mixing in breaking routes. They had some slant work, and I think they can use him in the slot a little bit. Not a lot, let's say 25%, which would be way up from what he has been previously. So I think they're going to design some touches to get the ball in this kid's hand because super athletic, one of the highest verts in the league. Ironic that he's white. But not to bring race into this, but Alec Pierce is he should be called Jamal Pierce. Wide receiver 34 is just money. Money to me.
I still think this team is going to miss the Michael Pittman if they don't sign somebody like that big body, physical wide receiver who can both play over the middle and inline block. He's one of the guys in the league that will block edge rushers. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have a guy on the roster right now that can really fit into that role. So the best offenses in the league, as far as I'm concerned, have that kind of versatile wide receiver. I'm interested to see who's going to play that position for them this year.
We got another Ben Stiller comment. Thank you, Derek. Derek, who's reigning over the Dynasty League before the draft even started. You son of a bitch. We love you. But Ben Stiller directed Severance, also awesome show. Also, Tropic Thunder, he's directed quite a bit of stuff. He's really good in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Love the play with him and Larry. Super good. So I love when someone's name starts a conversation. And what was the guy, Rotten Sex Hog, you loved?
Rotten Sex Hog.
One last comment from Stiller. He's all in on the Jaguars, and he doesn't like CJ Stroud. So let me ask you this. We already chatted about CJ Stroud and the Texans, but right now, currently, I know Trevor Lawrence was a can't-miss prospect. He's had one really good year early and then one really good year last year, but in between was awful. The Urban Meyer year I'm going to throw out. Who do you want right now? If you're the Raiders, I always use the Raiders as a team. They didn't draft Mendoza with that current roster, this ownership. Do you want CJ Stroud or do you want Trevor Lawrence?
Stroud
on your team.
Stroud.
Because Trevor Lawrence is also pretty young, right? Is he 1 year older than CJ Stroud? He
might be 2 years older than him. What did we say Stroud is? 24, right?
Yeah. I feel like the upside is with Lawrence, right? Just based on the generational talent we were sold on. He's shown glimpses. His upside's higher, but his downside's lower, dude.
Yeah, the running ability is certainly a plus. I'm not so sure that works with Clint Kubiak's scheme. Like, they don't really want the quarterback running all that much. So for me, I think Stroud's a better fit for that. I guess you're talking
not even system, just in general. Like, who are we taking? It's tough. It's really close for me.
It's close. I think it's close. I've been down on Lawrence since his rookie year. Last year, he proved me wrong, but that's a 1 year sample size. I'd like to see him do it multiple years in a row, at least 2 years in a row, before we crown him the next, Jim Kelly.
Well, here's how I want to frame it. And I know Trevor Lawrence has done well when the situation's been pretty good around him. But if you would just swap their locations, right, from day one, like, how would Trevor Lawrence have fared with the Texans? Does Trevor Lawrence have 3 playoff wins with the Texans? With that battle line? You know what I mean?
I really don't. I mean, the draft capital delta in these guys is 1 pick, right? Lawrence first overall, Stroud second overall. These teams are committed to these guys as franchise quarterbacks. But I think Stroud has a longer and more prolific career when everything is said and done. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to end up flaming out in his early 30s.
I hope it works out for Trevor Lawrence, just because we need more good quarterbacks in the league, and he is a dynamic player. You know what I mean? It's just some of the accuracy stuff and it's CJ Stroud is the same kind of situation. They see ghosts sometimes. Many Sam Darnold situations for both these guys.
I know that the offensive line for the Jaguars is not world beating, but put Trevor Lawrence behind the offensive line that Stroud had last year and the year before, and let's see how he did under pressure. You know, Stroud took 54 sacks in 2023. That's a lot. That's not just a physical beating. That wears on you mentally over time. We saw that with Caleb Williams 2 years ago.
Speaking of sacks, Blake says, "You're not a sack, Blake." He says, "Is Mo Alley Cox just on a lifetime contract with Indy?" I feel like he's been there forever. It's only been like 6 years, but like he's always there. He pops up every like 5 games and catches a touchdown, and he's not heard from him for another month. Like, giant guy, basketball background, should be a good blocker, but it's not. Like, what's the deal with Mo Alley Cox? What's the deal with Peanuts?
I don't know, man. They love Mo Cox there for some reason. He does pop his head up for a couple of touchdowns here and there. It's funny to see him like get past the linebacker, and then he's got to go one-on-one with a cornerback or a safety coming down. Like, and he's just a monstrous man. The size difference between him and a normal NFL player is staggering.
I feel like Mo Alley Cox was there for Andrew Luck days. Like, I know he wasn't. I just feel like he's been there that long.
He's been there a long time.
He's probably a candidate for our most average NFL player award. I feel like when his career's over, you're going to look at the numbers. He had a couple years of like 4 touchdowns. It's like usually 3 touchdowns and 300 yards. Most average right there with a superhuman body type.
He's definitely superhuman in terms of physical size.
All right. Mo Alley Cox was a hooper at VCU. Some inside information there on Mo Alley Cox. Sorry, Blake. I wasn't saying you were a nutsack. I was saying that Mo Alley Cox, his name is Mo Alley Cox. Speaking of nutsacks and Cox, you get it. You get it. I'm funny. All right. We need to move on to any last thoughts on the Tyler Warren tight end 4. Are you in on that based on let's say it's a 6th or 7th round pick? So, you know, it's kind of where Tyler Warren was going last year. Remember how the buzz got pretty high on him and it was a 7th round pick?
Yeah.
This is a better year to buy in, right?
I think, yeah, definitely. I mean, what's behind him? Everybody behind him has a ton of red flags. Harold Fannin has a ton more competition. Aranda Gadsden only had a very small sample size of production. Plus, he's got more competition. You know, Kenyon Sadiq is a rookie. Kyle Pitts has never been consistent in his career. There's a lot of question marks with the guys behind him. So you might as well take it for a guy that, as a rookie, what'd you say, 1.88 yards per route run? As a rookie in the NFL, as a tight end, I think it's pretty good and something I'm willing to take a shot on.
Well, and the stat I read about Michael Pittman, right? 8.8% of his catches last year were touchdowns. Like, he's not on the team anymore. And Josh Downs is certainly not Josh Downs, as much as we love him, he is not a touchdown merchant. He's not going to score 7 or 8 touchdowns. Alec Pierce is going to get a lot of double coverage. Like, I think Tyler Warren's going to get more volume and be more of a focal point in the red zone when they're trying to stop JT and Alec Pierce. So yeah, that's all pluses for Tyler Warren.
Right now, it's Ashton Doolin, although like their third wide receiver, right? Who's their red zone threat? It's Tyler Warren.
That's it. And also the carries. I guess Anthony Richardson is 1 season away from playing in the UFL. He's going to get released. They got to release him. They have to, or at least trade him. They're trying to get like a 5th rounder. Like, at that point, just get rid of the kid.
Terrible pick by this organization. Just an absolutely awful pick for a 1 year at a Florida school that was under 500. Just an awful, awful pick by this organization.
I still have hope for Anthony Richardson in fantasy. Okay. He just needs to get a starting job somewhere, which is going to be hard.
Okay. They said the same thing.
He's 22 years old, 23 years old. Come on. I like Anthony Richardson's skill set and physical tools way more than Trey Lance. Trey Lance was way overrated as an athlete. Well,
okay, you might like Anthony Richardson's physical tools more, but skill set? The dude doesn't have skills.
Trey Lance has no skills either. What are you talking about?
Being fast is not a skill for Anthony
Trey Lance is terrible.
Okay. Trey
Lance is bad, and Trey Lance actually can't stay healthy. I know I'm saying that when I'm talking about Anthony Richardson. Not really a good leg to stand on there. No pun intended, but
also true.
Anyway. He's a pirate, though, right? I don't want to be a pirate. Okay, let's move on. Ooh, Anthony Richardson to the Browns makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah, let's add a 7th quarterback to that room.
I mean, I think the Browns might be trying to win this year, which is just wild. But you know what? This is a good one. Anthony Richardson to Pittsburgh. I kind of like that from Team Money.
Well, I mean, wasn't that the CJ Stroud experiment? And they decided that they didn't even care about winning with him?
You're talking about Justin Fields.
What did I say?
CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud, yes.
The disrespect on CJ Stroud's name.
Yeah, weird. That was a weird Freudian slip.
Derek says Anthony Richardson can throw a ball a mile. He's Uncle Rico, but he actually has wheels though. He can throw it over that mountain, dude.
How much you want to bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
100%. And Robin Lewis, you know what? Story, I've made this point every time we talked about Taylor Green. I said he should have sued Anthony Richardson because he says if not for Anthony Richardson being a bust, Taylor Green, in my opinion, would have been a top 15 pick. I mean, technically, you're right because Anthony Richardson was a top 5 pick. And Taylor Green had destroyed his combine. And it was, you know how hard it is to destroy Anthony Richardson's combine? That was an all-timer. Taylor Green's was better. Taylor Green had experience in college, too. SEC experience.
And I think he won the same number of games in their final year there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And name me one wide receiver on either of those teams.
Florida. Who do you have?
Tremor DK was on that Florida team.
Wasn't Ricky Pearsall on that Florida team?
Was he? I can't remember.
He just probably wasn't on the field because he's always hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember.
I do have to add our Uncle Rico clip in here for sure.
Yeah.
Because we love Uncle Rico. All right. Let's move on to the Jaguars here. Stiller's going to love this.
The Jacksonville
Jags 13-4. Guys, 13-4 last year. 474 points forward, 336 points against. What a great point differential there. And they went 8-0. I believe it was 8-0 their last 8 games. So they were 5-4, and they rattled off 8 in a row. And then they kind of, they got Josh Allen. They played well. Trevor Lawrence did not play well in that playoff game, but that was a really close game. Kind of concerning that we know the Bills team, we say this every year, just undermanned, and Josh Allen was hurt. But Josh Allen played a good game in that game, and Trevor Lawrence did not. So give me your take on the Jaguars. Losing Devin Lloyd's an issue. ETN, I think, is going to be an issue, although Chris Rodriguez, Liam Cohen loves him, but I don't think it's an upgrade.
I'm interested. I think everybody in the fantasy world is glued to this running back room and how this is going to shake out. I think the biggest issue is losing both Devin Lloyd and Andrew Wingard. Those are 2 massive losses for this defense. I would say arguably one of the biggest shocks was this team winning 13 games last year. I don't think anybody expected Liam Cohen's first season to be that good, especially with how Trevor Lawrence was looking. I mean, Trevor Lawrence was the QB4 in fantasy over those 8 games that they won. But I mean, so much of that was bolstered by those rushing touchdowns, right? 342 points in fantasy, but God, that's a lot of rushing production. He only scored 24 total touchdowns. So that is kind of concerning when you're talking about, like, can he repeat this season? Same cast of characters on the offensive side of the ball, right? The biggest difference otherwise is Travis Etienne. Bashal Tutin's going to see some more time. Obviously, Chris Rodriguez is going to be the between the tackles grinder there. I wonder who's going to be productive in the passing game for the running backs because, like, Tutin, like, people, obviously Rodriguez, not a pass catcher. He's got like 10 career receptions in the NFL. But Tutin only had like 13 catches last year. So
scored 7 touchdowns somehow in his limited work.
Yeah,
so that's impressive.
Touchdowns, which is kind of wild when you think about it. I do like the addition of a Rook Ohoro on the defensive line because they got rid of Mason Smith. So this guy should go ahead and slot right in. I think he's going to be a valuable inside piece next to Armstead and Devon Hamilton. But Devin Lloyd, like, what are they going to do to replace him in the defensive side of things? Like, Ventrell Miller was fine, but he was a part. He was like a 50% snap share player last year. So this defense is going to be a little bit rough. I think this is going to be I don't see them winning 13 games again this year. I'm not quite sure what the Travis Hunter situation looks like long term. Yeah, I mean, they signed a lot of extensions, but I think there's a lot of work to do in order to make this team a Super Bowl contending team.
That's the next step, right? Same with Chicago. And, you mentioned Liam Cohen, and no one expected that. Just like no one expected Ben Johnson to come in. What surprised you more, Story? Was it Ben Johnson and the Bears going far? The Bears had a better playoff run than the Jags, but the Jags were better in the regular season. So they both came in with, number 1 overall picks. Trevor Lawrence a little older than Caleb Williams, but what was more surprising to you? Was Liam Cohen's awesome resurrection of a bad franchise, or Ben Johnson getting a serviceable offense with the Bears who have never had that?
I would say the Jaguars. That was more surprising. We saw what Cohen did the previous year in Tampa Bay, but you could see the raw tools with Caleb Williams. And you had DJ Moore, who was very productive in Carolina and was mostly productive in Chicago. Roma Dunze had a nice rookie year. Luther Burden was a highly touted prospect. Colson Lovin was drafted highly. The running game was somewhat left a lot to be desired. But this Jaguars offense, without Brian Thomas performing, I guess that's the biggest surprise too. Brian Thomas taking a massive step back, not just injury, but production and efficiency and all those kinds of things. We thought this guy was going to be a star in this league, and he took a massive step back. So them winning 13 games on the backs of Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington, to a lesser extent, Travis Hunter, that was, I think, my biggest surprise this past year was that in general.
Well, and the fact they traded up to get Travis Hunter and they botched that pick, at least for the short term they have, because I don't know what the hell they're doing with him. He had a bad rookie year. He ended up getting hurt, was terrible on defense. His only game that it was productive on offense was that London game against the Rams when they were losing by 3 touchdowns. That was the only 100-yard game. That was the only touchdown of the year. So, that was a 0 from Travis Hunter, and they still won 13 games. So that's impressive. I got some stats for you here. So Trevor Lawrence led all quarterbacks in expected fantasy points per game. So this is a Liam Cohen stat because he wasn't the number 1 quarterback. So if anything, he should have had a better year because the situations they were putting him in and also some of the rushing stuff. But Trevor Lawrence and Bo Nix are the only quarterbacks that ranked top 7 in both passing attempts and rushing attempts, which is ideal. That is a fantasy formula right there for a quarterback, right? You get points in the ground, points in the air, volume, right? Volume on both ends. And Trevor Lawrence is running the ball in the red zone. So he tied for second amongst quarterbacks with 9 rushing touchdowns, ranked second with a 7.1 expected rushing TD number, and ranked third in 10 with 10 carries inside the 5-yard line. So 10 carries inside the 5-yard line. That's like Cam Newton shit, bro.
That is the rushing that we wanted to see in 2021 when he got drafted out of Clemson.
In all the years, he probably had 10 total in his whole career until last year. And it's like, I've always been clamoring for Trevor Lawrence to run, not even just for the fantasy aspect, but it's going to help his arm too, right? You put pressure on the defense. I always say this, and that's what Cam Ward needs to do next year is just move around the pocket. Sometimes you don't have to scramble, but that puts pressure on the defense. And that was, I think, the biggest thing. And I don't know if that's a Liam Cohen thing or Trevor Lawrence made a concerted effort to actually just say, screw it, I'm going to take this game over. And it was a breath of fresh air to see for him.
It was exciting to see. This is the kind of stuff that we saw at Clemson under a Dabo Swinney team that was a regular national title contender. He's always been, Trevor Lawrence is throughout his career. I mean, he dealt with injuries in 24, but throughout his career, he's always been a 300, 350 rushing guy. It's the rushing touchdowns that doubled from his previous career high. That's where the surprise is. The thing is, is he ever going to throw 40 touchdowns? Probably not, right? 29 last year, 29 passing touchdowns, 38 total touchdowns. If that rushing touchdown number comes down and he regresses to his career average, you take out the injury shortened season, you take out the rookie year, you're looking at 26 touchdowns. That's what this is disappointing. That's why it's such a surprise. How, I don't want to say pedestrian, but for how highly touted that Trevor Lawrence was coming out of Clemson for years 1 through 4, with how unimpressive he looked. For him to take that giant leap forward was what really surprised me with him last year. Was it all Liam Cohen? That remains to be seen. They got a first place schedule this year, right? So that they're all like the Bears. They're playing a much more difficult schedule.
So let's talk about the running back situation. ETN out, Bashal Tuten in. And if you remember, Storey, the early episodes here of this season, even before ETN left, I figured ETN was gone. And I was drafting Bashal Tuten everywhere in best ball. I have a lot of shares of him at pick 90, pick 100. And now ETN's gone, but they bring in Chris Rodriguez, who is Liam Cohen's homie. And so Bashal Tuten beat Travis Etienne in yards after contact per attempt and missed tackles forced per year last season. But I went back and watched every touch from Bashal Tuten's rookie year because I was talking about, I was like, he's going to be my guy this year. I don't care if he's RB14. I'm going to take him everywhere. And I watched the film and it was gross.
You watched every touch? What, did you do that on a smoke break? Because there weren't a whole lot of them.
It was enough, though. It was every touch, every target, so that the incomplete passes as well. And I was not impressed. And he just looked like a rookie. Now, this guy is a combine warrior, underwear Olympian. This dude is chiseled. He is compact. He's got the body. He's fucking 215 at 5'9", super fast. Everything we want. He catches passes. So in theory, he should be an elite fantasy running back. but the vision was bad. The balance was bad. And I am just concerned because everyone's going to say he's going to take the job, but like Liam Cohen loves Chris Rodriguez, and Chris Rodriguez is one of those thumpers that is going to get what's blocked for him. And I think one of my comparisons is remember when Tony Pollard was vastly outproducing Zeke Elliott because he was the ancillary back and his numbers all look better. And exactly what I just said about Bashal Tutin. And what have we seen from Tony Pollard? Like, he's a fine running back, but Tony Pollard's not special. Zeke was special. I know that was back end of the career Zeke, but Zeke was still a better running back that year. But the numbers skewed to Tony Pollard because he was getting the dime defense looks. He was getting the high equity touches when it's like 3rd and 6 and he's having a 40-yard touchdown. Zeke was just running into the middle. I feel like that was Travis Etienne last year. Besides the reception stuff, it was him running up the middle in his 205-pound frame. So what are your thoughts on Bashal Tutin? I don't know if you've watched the film on him last year, but like, do you like him?
Let's play a game. Who do you think had more receptions last year, Bashal Tutin or LaQuint Allen?
LaQuint Allen.
Well, they had the same amount of receptions. They both had 10 receptions. So people keep telling me that the upside is with Bashal Tutin because he's a pass catcher. But the dude had 10 receptions last year. Now, I know that Etienne is a pass catcher and that he took up a good chunk of that. But if Bashal Tutin was truly this dynamic threat, don't you think they would have utilized him a little bit more, try to spell Etienne a little bit more, utilize him in the passing game a little bit more? 79 receiving yards. Now, he did have 2 receiving touchdowns, so one of those was pretty fluky. But, yeah, I don't know quite what to make of this. We keep hearing, or people are saying that Chris Rodriguez is Liam Cohen's buddy because he coached him at Kentucky. Okay, maybe. That was a long time ago. But they did go out and they signed him to a 2-year deal, $4 million per year, $8 million contract. That's little less than what Tyler Algier got to be what we thought was the lead running back in Arizona.
It's kind of a lot of money for Chris Rodriguez, man.
So I don't think there's an upside for Chris Rodriguez. There might be upside for Bashal Tutin, especially because they didn't add anything in of consequence. I think they signed an undrafted free agent. I don't remember off the top of my head, but they really didn't add anything to this running back room. But I don't think there's upside for Bashal Tutin either. I think this is a stinky 2-way committee at best and a 3-way committee at worst.
No, you know what this is? And this is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. And I'm gonna kind of give you the archetypes of these guys. So I think that Chris Rodriguez is gonna be Sean Tucker, but more touches. I think LaQuint Allen is gonna be Rashad White, but less touches. And then Bashal Tutin is gonna be what Bucky Irving was when he came back. In between the 20s, you're going to get 14 touches a game with Bashal Tutin, and I think he has more juice to break off a long run than Bucky, but I think Bucky's a better player than Bashal Tutin. And you mix Trevor Lawrence's 9 rushing touchdowns in there. Now you have to share goal line work. If you're a Bashal Tutin owner, you have to share goal line work with Chris Rodriguez, who will probably lead the team in goal line carries. You're going to have a quarterback that was, I just read it, 10 carries inside the 5-yard line. And LaQuint Allen, they love, as a rookie, they trust him in pass protection, Story. And they talked him up. Like, he's only going to get better. And I'm not saying LaQuint Allen's going to really be his numbers won't reflect the impact he has on this team and the snaps he plays. It's not going to be a lot. It's going to be 18 to 22%. That's enough to take away. And you're talking about a 2-way committee. It's not a 2-way committee because now they're splitting 80% of the work. So maybe it's going to be 50-30 Bashal Tutin, but you're still looking for at a 50% snap share when you're losing passing down work, you're losing goal line work. Is his ability and his offense good enough to support him going RB26? Because he's not going in the top 24, at least. I do see the upside there. Because the player archetype is what we want, dude. This is not a Brian Robinson Jr. type player, right? This is a guy that can break the big one and is a plus pass catcher. But I don't know if they view him as this.
Yeah, I mean, LaQuint Allen got a decent amount of work for a 7th-round pick last year, which was very surprising in and of itself. Tutin was pretty inefficient last year, 3.7 yards per carry. RB26 though, it's probably worth throwing a dart on that guy in a couple of drafts just in case he does end up taking the lead job role and popping off. You want to have some exposure to him, but if you're only doing a redraft league or 2, I'm not sure that there's enough meat on the bone for any one of these guys to be fantasy relevant. So LaQuint Allen not draftable. Maybe I'll take some shots on Chris Rodriguez late, and we'll see what week 1 looks like. Right? A lot of pundits are going to tell you to draft Bashal Tutin and draft him ahead of ADP because he's going to be the guy. Would it surprise you to see it come out in week 1 and Rodriguez has 14 carries and gets 1 target, and Bashal Tuten has 10 carries and gets 4 targets, and neither one of them has an RB2 or better day?
Bashal Tuten or Chuba Hubbard this year?
Chuba Hubbard is kind of gross this year.
Like that one, did you?
No, I don't, because I kind of like Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah, Dad. You need some of this.
This is cum.
That's about how it feels having to decide between those two guys.
Chuba has definitely a higher floor, like at least early in the year. We both love Jonathan Brooks, but like it will be Chuba's backfield until further notice. Like I guess I'll frame it like this: if I go wide receiver heavy and this is my RB2, I'm gonna go Chuba Hubbard. If for some reason I go running back, and I get my 3 receivers and Bashal Tuten sitting out there, and this is my 3rd running back, I'm taking Bashal Tuten all day over Chuba Hubbard because I'm looking for that ceiling, that boom, that potential. Chuba Hubbard won't ever be that.
No, I don't think so. I mean, they do like him there, but there's just not the explosiveness. There's not the upside, as you mentioned. So it's gross all around. There's got to be better guys in that range, though.
Well, a couple running backs earlier, David Montgomery is the answer. So I want to get to the wide receiver room, and I had it in the intro, back to the pile, reference to South Park. And this wide receiver room, if we're going to count Travis Hunter, which we should, is messy. So this is a Brian Thomas thing I want to do. Is, I'm pretty big on Brian Thomas this year in best ball, going wide receiver 32, when last year, as you know, he was wide receiver 10, wide receiver 9, which was just insane to me. I had 0 shares in 35 redraft leagues. My all-time call, I think, in terms of fading a guy, because it wasn't even injury. He got a little hurt, but it was just the offense and his own poor production and poor on-field play. So last year, Brian Thomas declined in every meaningful metric. So route rate was 81%, 2024 down to 79%. Target share, 24% down to 18%. Yeah. Targets per route, 0.25 to 0.19. Yards per route, this one's wild. 2.45 yards per route down to 1.5. Gross. His Pro Football Focus receiving grade, 83 down to 66. ESPN receiver score, I don't know what the hell this is, but it was 57 and 24. 2025 was 17. 17. That's insane. Expected PPR points per game, 14 down to 11. And then PPR points per game, 16.5 to 9.9. 9.9 in PPR points per game for an elite athlete, dude. That they were using him at end rounds as a rookie and just getting him like manufactured touches. And they're just like, nope, you're going to play the Alec Pierce role, even though we don't call those plays and we don't throw the ball downfield. Trevor Lawrence doesn't throw the ball over 8 yards. What a wild, just those stats are just mind boggling to me. I don't get it.
I have no explanation for a guy who looked incredibly impressive as a rookie to come in, do what he did, and then to have that kind of fall off. That's unprecedented as far as I can remember. What was the yards per route run last year?
1.5.
That's horrible for a boundary wide receiver.
And 2.5 the year prior, which is elite.
Yeah. It's not, elite's like 2.8 and higher.
But it was elite because he had Mac Jones and he was a rookie. You know,
true.
Like,
he also
very good.
With Trevor Lawrence being injured for 6 games last year. If you're going to ask me where I would take him, the answer is I have no flipping clue. Like, I don't know what to do with him. I don't know what to do with his running back or this wide receiver room in general. The report early in the offseason was that Trevor Lawrence was going to be near exclusive cornerback. Then Liam Cohen came out and said that report, there was no basis to that report. He's going to play the same role he did last year. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean the beginning of the year when he was incredibly unproductive and he was on the field for 60% of the snaps? Or does that mean that game where he got hurt, where he had 100+ yards receiving and he was on the field for 82% of snaps? I don't know what that means.
Let me give you a Parker Washington stat, and then we'll try to digest this wide receiver room. So Parker Washington is the opposite of what we just had with Brian Thomas. So Parker Washington led all Jaguars receivers last year in targets per route, yards per route, Pro Football Focus receiving grade, and ESPN receiver score. So he was the best guy, and Jacoby Myers was no slouch last year coming over from the Raiders. I love Parker Washington. I think he is being overdrafted. So Brian Thomas, wide receiver 32, Parker Washington, wide receiver 35, Jacoby Myers, wide receiver 45, and then Travis Hunter, I didn't even write him down. He's like in the late 50s, which, I feel like that's a value too, because of if they just say they're doing a smoke screen, he ends up playing offense. But this is a really crowded room, and you also have Brenton Strange, tight end 20. I'm going to throw him out here. These 4 guys, where's the value? Where's the upside? And where are you going, or are you avoiding?
I was going to ask if you had clocked Brenton Strange, because 540 yards over 12 games last year. Remember, he missed quite a bit of time. That's pretty good. Now, it's only 45 yards per game, but for a wide receiver who caught 46 passes last year, or excuse me, for a tight end who caught 46 passes last year, I wouldn't be surprised if, they signed him to an extension in this offseason, because he's on the last year of his rookie deal. So there's definitely some value there, I think, in best ball leagues and tight end premium leagues. But you're not drafted in a redraft, right? Like there's too many other guys there. The value is probably Brian Thomas. Like, it sounds kind of gross, but wouldn't you want to take we know what Parker Washington is, and he's been underrated his entire career, but now he's kind of sneaking up into that wide receiver 3 territory, and it starts to get a little nervous because we've seen plenty of Parker Washington games that were underwhelming. You're going to be cutting a lot of wide receiver 3s on all your fantasy teams. I think I want the guy that has shown the overall upside that Brian Thomas showed.
And has the draft capital. Like, it's only 2 years removed from him being a first-round pick and showing out as a first-round pick. And he offers something that these other guys don't. Jacoby Myers is just a slot merchant, super steady guy. Parker Washington is a juiced-up slot merchant, but he's also like 5'10". And again, I love Parker Washington, but the fact that they're going back-to-back, like, I don't play fantasy like that. I don't want to play for the guy that's going to meet his ADP. I think Brian Thomas, worst-case scenario, Brian Thomas stays healthy, Storey. Full PPR, what wide receiver finish? If all the things go wrong like last year again, is wide receiver 40 his basement?
I mean, barring injury, probably wide receiver 45.
That's rough, bro, with that skill set he has. What is the ceiling, though? Is the ceiling top 15?
I was going to say wide receiver 15. That was exactly what I was going to say.
Because
there is definitely more competition on this pass catching competition on this team than there was in 2024. Reminder, I think Washington's on the last year of his deal this year. So from a dynasty,
they paid Jacoby Myers though.
They did pay Jacoby Myers.
So I don't know what they're doing. They paid Jacoby Myers. They traded up to get Travis Hunter. They have Brian Thomas. They like Parker Washington. It's like a guy that's juggling 4 chicks. He's like, well, this one cooks. This one does anal. This one watches football with me. This one's really pretty, but she's a bitch. Which one do I choose? I think the correct answer is you rotate all of them and you have one every different day. But that gets a little tiresome. So
yeah,
and also Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback. As much as his fantasy value was okay passing the ball last year, but it was mostly on the ground. So it's but you have Liam Cohen, who is a hell of a coordinator. So there's just so many moving parts here, and there's going to be value. There's going to be value because none of these guys are going high enough, but they're all going in a draftable range. We have to plant our flag. And I think my flag currently, because I'm doing only best ball drafts, is on Brian Thomas because I feel like he's the best ball option. Redraft, though, are you comfortable sticking Brian Thomas in your wide receiver 3 spot? I mean, I like having my wide receiver 3. Usually I set my team up where it can be boom or bust, but I don't like having 3 for 30s, dude. I don't like having that. I can't have that.
I don't. I think I would be comfortable having him as my wide receiver 3. And if it's not working out in the first couple of weeks, I think I can build you're not dealing with a ton of injury. You're not dealing with injuries in the first 2. You're not going to put a guy who's injured or coming off injury for the most part in week 1. So if I think I can build a robust enough roster to withstand a 3 from 30 from our wide receiver 3. You should be able to, if you're a good drafter and a smart fantasy player, you should be able to overcome that. So if I do get stuck with him as my wide receiver 3 and he posts 3 for 30 for the first 2 weeks, well, you got to start making some tough decisions and maybe move on. Conversely, if I can find another wide receiver 3 who might be a little, it also depends on roster construction, right? If T. Higgins is my wide receiver 2, I might want somebody I'm with a little more steadiness behind that,
right?
Because T. Higgins has been known to get injured. So there's some roster considerations. I still think I'm going to go back to Brian Thomas. I don't know if Jacoby Myers is in a range where he's being drafted, but he might be undervalued.
No, he is. He's a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 45. Okay. He had a 23% target share after coming over last year, so that's pretty elite. That was actually more than Brian Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember how many yards he had last year. Probably like 500-600, something like that.
Think about that. He comes over mid-season in a trade and actually out targets Brian Thomas, who was there. it's just fucking rough to break down. Last question for you, Storey. Where would you rank? Where do you think Brian Thomas should be ranked? So I think that a lot of this has to do with recency bias, and you know how the fantasy community overreacts to everything. And last year, you know, it would have been a bad year if he was drafted at wide receiver 25. It's the Marvin Harrison thing, right? Everyone's writing the guy off. This is only one bad year from Brian Thomas. It's only one good year from Brian Thomas. But I feel like everyone's like, well, he was such a bust last year. The thing is, he should have never been drafted in the first round last year in the first place. That was preposterous. I feel like it's preposterous that he's getting drafted close to wide receiver 36. So where should he be ranked? Is wide receiver 25 fair?
Seems a
Baking
little
in
high.
the upside?
It seems a little high based on the target share last year and the other offensive pieces in that. I would say wide receiver 30 sounds reasonable.
Not much of a value there, but there's inherent upside here, and this is not even. But the problem is we have Travis Hunter who can come back in the mix and fuck everything up.
I will say, if you play in return yardage leagues, then Parker Washington is 100% your guy.
Why do you always bring this up?
Because we play
cater those people.
Because we play in a return yardage league.
We actually do play in a return yardage league. I don't like it. Last one on the Jaguars. Let's just chat about Travis Hunter. I told you guys we're going to dive deep into these teams, and you're not getting this knowledge, these conversations that you can be involved in the chat as well. Anywhere else, maybe you'll get it from Matt Harmon. Will probably do this. Matt Harmon's the goat, though.
He's pretty good.
Thanks. Sorry. It's like he's my brother or something. Like, thank you. He gave me a compliment. Travis Hunter. What are you reading into any of these blurbs and what the coaches are saying? Like, what are we doing with Travis Hunter? What do you project? Defense, offense, split?
I don't know yet. I gotta see the camp reports. I've got to see what they're doing in camp with him. I don't give any weight to any of these beat reporters one-liners that we hear about. Like you hear what came out of Tampa Bay recently that Sean Tucker is going to be strictly like the number 3 on the depth chart, and it's Bucky. Like, okay, maybe we'll see what happens in training camp. Right? It's too early for any of these speculations to matter. So, given what we saw last year, and given what draft capital they gave to him, they would be wise to move him to one position or the other. I have always said that he's a better cornerback than he is a wide receiver. He's a fine wide receiver. He's a very good wide receiver. He's not a great wide receiver. He's not elite. So much of his production was bolstered by volume at Colorado, behind a guy that could throw the ball 660 times, in 12 games. I would think they'd be better off transitioning him mostly to cornerback and having a package or two a game for him. What I think we're going to see is not a full-time cornerback, not a full-time wide receiver, and he's just going to be incredibly disappointing whether you have him in an IDP league or whether you draft him in redraft as a wide receiver.
It's just they're not even giving the kid a chance. Like, splitting time, just the mental aspect, not to mention the physical toll on the body. It's just too much. Pick a fucking side. They're on the fence. Don't be on the fence. Pick a side.
Yeah,
that's all I want.
Like you remember, well, you don't watch a ton of college, but in college you'll occasionally have coaches who put in. They've got like 2 quarterbacks. They might put in this guy for running. And the old adage is, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks, right? Not getting in a rhythm, not learning with the right. You're not, especially with Travis Hunter. Like, is he in the wide receiver room? Is he in the cornerback room? What film is he watching? Because you can't. His time is limited. So what's he actually spending his time on? I think it's a bad idea to try to but it seems like Cohen is kind of dug in on having him be not even a full-time player, but a split player amongst the two. And it's a lot easier for them to split him because as Hetzer pointed out, like they didn't just pay Jacoby Myers $60 million to stand on the sidelines with a clipboard.
So I'm wondering what room he's in also, right? Is it the defensive side? Is it the offensive side? Maybe he needs to take a page out of CJ Stroud's book and just go to church.
It's really unfair. It's my team. It's my quarterback. And if you guys do that, man, it's unfair. We lost as a team.
The sniff in there always gets me. My team.
Yes. Sorry, you know what? We said a lot of kind words about CJ Stroud today, so I think we can make fun of his off-field habits a little bit. Anyways, Tennessee Titans. This one's going to be a little quicker because there's not much to get into with the Titans. And I actually only have 2 stats.
There is a fair amount to get into on their offseason moves. So I get to see a man about a lizard. So I don't know if you need to entertain the folks, answer some questions. I'll be back in 90 seconds.
I can do that. Hetzer, you're right. They have a bigger need at cornerback than wide receiver. But if that's the case, they traded up to draft a cornerback. That's not really a cornerback. That's a project. Like, don't do that. I feel like the only reason they traded up was to have him be this generational player. And that the plan was to play both sides, which I always thought was a joke. That was kind of the plan. And he's just not going to, like, he's not elite enough at wide receiver to go. Like, that's going to be where Jeremiah Smith gets drafted. Like, that's Julio Jones territory. Like, those guys didn't even go that high. And he's not generational like that. Cool, he can play both sides of the ball. I feel like all these guys could play both sides of the ball, just no one utilizes them like that in college. So it was just a really weird situation, and it's still going to be weird. So I still like Brian Thomas here. That is my dude. And I think that Jacoby Myers is also a value. I am off Parker Washington. You guys know how big of a Parker Washington fan I was last year. It was my priority ad the week that Brian Thomas had that injury, and I had Parker Washington everywhere. He won me a couple weeks. He looked great last year, so I was on that. But, like, that was situational. That was because the room was watered down, and somehow Brian Thomas comes back, and Parker Washington was still crushing. I think Brian Thomas is hurt. I think that's my number one takeaway. I think he played bad last year. I think it got in his head, and he was also hurt. And they kind of went away from him. I think that with an offseason, Brian Thomas has a draft capital. Give me that all day long with Brian Thomas at wide receiver 32. I'm going to play a clip here and grab a drink, and then Storey will be back in a second, and we will finish up with the Tennessee Titans.
What's happening here? That French animal bit my ear off! Well, that's an absurd exaggeration. My apologies, Bidwell.
He look in our tent. He look at my woman. He saw her breast.
Her breast? You saw her breast?
I've said it before and I said it again. Any man who look on her will die.
You'll die. Don't look at her. All right. Let's move on to the Tennessee Titans, Mike Storey. 3-14 last year. They scored 284 points and they gave up 478. Now, my math isn't great. I've been drinking a little bit, but that's not good. It was an awful year.
It's less than ideal.
Cam Ward. So I'll give you a couple stats. I only have 2 stats for the Titans because there was not a lot going on last year. Cam Ward's 3 best games last season in terms of adjusted yards per pass attempt came in his final 3 games. We like to see that. It looked better in real life. The numbers were better. He was running a little bit more. That's cool. And then Gunnar Helm drew a target on 22% of his routes last year, which ranks 6th among 49 qualifying tight ends. That was with Chikakonkwo there. Chikakonkwo was now gone, and they bring in Daniel Bellinger, who's just going to follow Brian Daboll into hell. I mean, it's just going to happen.
That's fair.
So what do you have in the Titans?
Remember that one year that Daniel Bellinger was halfway relevant as a fantasy, like a tight end 2 on the Giants?
Mm-hmm. He was a PPR scam.
So the offense was rough last year, but arguably the defense was more rough, right? They gave up a 5th worst 2.46 yards or points per drive in 2025. That is god awful. Now, the big question is, what did they do in the offseason? Well, the answer is, what didn't they do in the offseason? They signed on the offensive side. Yeah, they signed Wan'Dale Robinson. They drafted Carnell Tate, amongst a slew of other offensive signings. But the big offensive signings at defense: John Franklin Myers, Alante Taylor, Cordell Flott, Jermaine Johnson. They got Jeffrey Simmons there, right? They've got Cordell Flott and Alante Taylor are 2 huge pieces to the secondary. I mean, they spent a lot. They spent $100 million on these 2 guys. This should fit Robert Saleh's zone scheme. The zone, like he loves running 3 high wide receivers or 3 high cornerbacks, right? That's his zone style. So defensive wise, I think this team's going to take a big leap forward. Like, they should be a lot better on defense this year. Of course, that really doesn't mean anything unless Cam Ward is better this year, right?
Right.
So 3-14 last year. You mentioned 250 points last year, something like that. The big question is, can Brian Daboll coax a season out of Cam Ward like he got out of rookie Jackson Dart. Now, obviously, Cam Ward is not the rushing quarterback that Jackson Dart is, but Cam Ward is a much more impressive passer than Jackson Dart was. Last year, Ward had a league worst 143.2 EPA. That's god awful. Like, that was worse than what I was expecting. But he was like, who was his pass catchers last year, right? Like, no tight end of consequence. Chigakwanko, who's moved on, he's in Washington now. Alec Ayamanyor, who we liked, but he's a Stanford project. Come here, DK. So those guys are still back, but you have Carnell Tate and Wan'Dale Robinson as a nice safety valve, and they paid him a lot of money, $80 million, right? That's a slot presence. That's easy throws for Cam Ward. Last season, Robinson played 548 snaps in the slot. He should be a true slot merchant. I think that it's impossible for this team to make the leap to winning this division, in my opinion. But at the very least, they're going to make some incremental step forward. They spent a lot of money in this offseason. They should have a lot of money in the offseason next year with some restructurings in order for them to continue getting better. I see them as a just under 500 team this year.
So Robert Saleh would make that defense they had last year better because that's just the type of coordinator he is. And you mentioned they actually have talent on the defensive side of the ball, which they did not have last year or a good coordinator. So I like all that. From a fantasy lens here, Cam Ward going quarterback 24. Best ball, I do love it. I think he's going to take a leap forward. And you mentioned Jackson Darts, and they don't have the same skill set. But Cam Ward ran a lot in Miami in college. He ran a lot, and he ran a very, very, very little last year. So I think that the running's going to step up, at least running to throw more, opposed to just literally sitting back there taking sacks. Let's talk about the running back room, though. Tony Pollard, RB29, Tajay Spears, RB50, and Nick Singleton, our boy, running back 55. Do you see Pollard as a value? So I think we were talking about Bashal Tootin earlier, right? Running back 26. Would it make sense to take Tony Pollard and Bashal Tootin? You take Pollard after Tootin, you just start Pollard to start the year because he should be the starting running back for 3, 5, 7 games. And then they'll slowly start mixing Singleton in and Spears will be the pass catcher. Or is this going to, because the offense will be better than last year because Tony Pollard had every chance last year and it was awful until the end of the year when no one was starting him anymore.
Yeah. I mean, they've got some questions, a lot of questions on the offensive line. Like, they signed a left tackle, Dan Moore, to a pretty big contract, $82 million. But he, not this offseason, the offseason before, but he was not very impressive last year. And their interior, especially on the run blocking, is there's a lot of question marks there as well. So Dable's got his work cut out for him to try to get this run game in line there. I think Cam Ward has upside. I think the passing game has upside. I'm just not so sure that there's going to be the scoring chances, nor like the production. Like, none of these guys are overwhelmingly impressive. I like Nick Singleton as a prospect. Draft capital's not there. He's also competing. He's like third on the depth chart at the very best. Like Tony Pollard and Spears. Like, Spears has been oft injured, but he was fine for the most part after he came back last year. I don't know, man. I don't know that I want any of these running backs. I know Pollard had 1,000 yards last year, but that felt like it was bolstered by the last 3 games or whatever it was.
Man, I want Singleton as the, usually I love taking handcuffs. This is a guy I think can earn a role and earn the role by the fantasy playoffs or even before that without injury. And Tony Pollard is the definition of a guy that could be traded at the deadline or if a running back goes down. I think the Titans have high hopes for this season in terms of a 3-14 season last year. Like, they're going to double, maybe even triple their win total, but that's probably not the playoffs. And it's most certainly not the Super Bowl. Why not get a 4th or 5th rounder for Tony Pollard to a running back needy team? He still has some juice left. That's another little angle for Nick Singleton. I think he's just a better player than Tony Pollard at this stage of his career, at least better talent. So I love that RB55. Does Tajay Spears do anything for you? I think he's just the middleman. Like, he's never going to get the starting role. RB50 is late. It is late, but what are you getting?
You might get a game here and there, and he's a decent pass catcher, decent pass protector, so he's going to be on the field. That's just going to eat into Tony Pollard's snaps. It's not going to do enough for you to be comfortable starting him in a redraft. And, best ball, you might get a game or 2 where he cracks your lineup. I just don't think there's enough there. I am convinced that this team is going to be better, but not world-beating. They're going to know where the holes are for the next offseason. And the running back room, if Singleton isn't that game, if he doesn't take that leap, he's got to beat out 2 guys on the depth chart. Like, if Pollard goes down, it's probably Spears, Singleton, 50-50. Like, they're not going to.
I don't think so. Spears can't even stay healthy in an ancillary role. You're going to throw that guy out there for 20 touches? He's going to die. His little lollipop helmet? Get the hell out of here. No way.
I know. But, Pollard stayed mostly healthy. Did he even deal with injury last year? He played all 17 games.
No.
Right?
No, it was wild. He was so bad. Let's shift gears to the wide receiver room. Your boy,
He did
Tate.
have a couple 100-yard games in the near the end of the season. Though.
It was the biggest joke ever because, as you know, I drafted a decent amount of Tony Pollard last year, like 6 or 7 shares. And I went wide receiver heavy. I was like, he'll get me through the year, and I had all these handcuffs. And then by the time he started going off, I think I still had him on the roster. I wasn't starting him. His major breakout game was against the Browns. Had like 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Browns entered that game as the #1 defense against running backs, both on a yards per carry, total yards, and fantasy points perspective. And he goes off for be the RB1 in the week against the Browns. Like, that's fantasy for you. Wide receivers, your boy Tate, wide receiver 30, 4th overall pick in the NFL draft. Wan'Dale Robinson, you mentioned before, he's at wide receiver 50, 52. Now, this is half PPR underdog, so I think he'll go higher in PPR, maybe like mid-40s. And then Calvin Ridley, oh, God, how the mighty have fallen. I don't know how mighty he was, but wide receiver 75 for Calvin Ridley. Holy shit.
I mean, he was fine in Atlanta. But
he was okay in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Injuries have certainly sapped his explosiveness. I wouldn't be considering Calvin Ridley at all. He's a fine sacrificial X, but, it's Carnell Tate's show as far as I'm concerned. He's the man there. They didn't spend a 4th overall pick to not use him. He would really have to underwhelm in preseason and in camp for him to not get a full-time role. Now, a full-time role, it's not 100% snap share. He's not Jamar Chase. But Carnell Tate should be on the field for 85% of the snaps right off the bat. So that means volume is he's got the opportunity for volume. I think he's got he's probably a T. Higgins, right? He's not a Justin Jefferson. He's not a Puka Nacua. He's not a Jamar Chase, as I mentioned, but he's probably a T. Higgins. And I think that's where he's being drafted. I think that's incredibly valuable. And
all right, guys, get your comments in. He is a rookie. Get your comments in. We got a little bit more to talk about on the Titans here, and we'll answer some questions before we log off. Do you like Tate at wide receiver 30 though?
Yeah.
Do you like it? Do you see the upside though in it with based on Cam Ward in this offense?
I think he's a wide receiver too in this offense. I think Cam Ward. I mean, Cam Ward's got the arm ability. He's got the elusiveness. You had mentioned he didn't run a ton at Washington State, but he had 200 yards running over 12. 13 games last year, 14 games last year, whatever they played. Not last year, his final year in college at Miami. I like it. I think he's a wide receiver too. Now, at wide receiver, I don't think his price is going to – that's the problem. I don't think his price is going to stick at wide receiver 30 because we're not to the casuals drafting it. And when casuals get in and they look at Carnell Tate was drafted 4 overall, I remember that name. Even if a passing, I remember that name from Ohio State. This isn't a Puka Nacua situation. This is a guy who's going to get buzzed. So he'll probably be drafted as he'll probably be drafted where Tedero McMillan was drafted last year. Now we're starting to get into a little bit of worrisome territory with returning on value.
Yeah, I like the spot better than what Tet was going into last year. A little better just because I do like Cam. I like Cam Moore's an aggressive passer, right, down the field. And Bryce Young has just never been that. Wan'Dale Robinson, let's call it wide receiver 45 because I think this is best ball that I have PPR. So he's just not a sexy best ball guy. But I feel like he'll have some value in PPR. And do you like the value there? Because you mentioned 80 receptions is what he's been rocking the last couple of years. And a nice little security blanket. And also a mix of the fact we like Gunnar Helm, but there's not a lot of tight end threat there on this team. So Wan'Dale Robinson going to soak up all the underneath stuff. That is not Carnell Tate's game at all.
Exactly. They don't have a tight end of consequence. They don't really like to run to the wide receiver or to the running back. And now Brian Daboll might change that scheme a little bit. We did see him throw to the running back. He's everywhere he's gone. He's utilized the running back out of the backfield, mostly in dump offs. We saw what Cam Scatterbo did with the Giants last year. So yeah, I think it's a fair value for Wan'Dale Robinson. This is a best ball pick though, right? Redraft wise, when are you ever going to be able to start this guy? You would need a decimated wide receiver room like you had in New York last year for him to be fantasy startable week in and week out.
Yeah, he's almost in that boring range where when I'm taking a bench receiver, typically I want to shoot for the moon. This is the same as Jacoby Myers, right? He's going a little later than Jacoby Myers. Seems similar to that. Gunnar Helm, tight end 25. Any interest there?
No.
We know that Dabo loves Bellinger, and this might be a little bit of a committee, but Gunnar Helm was fine last year with Chickakankwo playing ahead of him, right? Where I think Gunnar Helm's going to play ahead of Daniel Bellinger.
Yeah, probably. It doesn't matter to me, though. This is a team that has never found a usefulness for the tight end. They've never had a fantasy relevant tight end that I can remember. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, who was the last fantasy relevant tight end in Tennessee?
Delaney Walker.
Oh yeah,
ding, ding, ding,
yeah,
ding.
Delaney Walker. Yeah,
like that little drop there, buddy. Yeah, Delaney Walker was great.
That was
he had a 100 catch season.
That was 12 years ago.
Jonnu Smith had a nice run there. His second year.
I guess you're right.
And that's kind of why I like Chickakankwo last year in best ball, because it was the same situation. Jonnu Smith flashed as a rookie, and then he had that like 6 touchdowns in 6 games his second year, and then he got hurt and it wasn't the same thing. But those are the 2 answers there. So it's not a really good list, I don't think.
It wasn't his second year; it was his 4th year. He had 65 targets, 41 receptions for 448, and 8 touchdowns. So,
that was his 4th year. Wow.
2020. There you go. I guess cool. No, to answer your question, Gunnar Helm doesn't do it. There's I don't think there's even a reason to draft him in best ball.
Is Delaney Walker the last tight end to return a kickoff for a touchdown? That might be the answer, because it's rare.
I didn't even know he did return a touchdown or a kickoff for a touchdown.
God, Dakota said it must be true. He knows ball. Dakota knows ball. How's Chicago, Dakota? He's in Chi-Town right now, so he's hanging out with us. Yeah,
cool.
Not in the suburbs though. We're ways away from you.
Yeah. What are you? Is he visiting?
Yeah, some work business thing. Keith, shout out to Keith.
Cool.
What's up, fellas?
So if you want some recommendations for food, you avoid the deep dish. Like I know everybody says Chicago deep dish, like Illuminati's, Giordano's. It's fine. There's 2 pizza places that you should go to. One of them is called Peace Pizza. Great, like oven, brick fired, like wood fired brick oven pizza. And then go find a Chicago style tavern style pizza. Really good thin crust pizza.
You're too late. He asked us in the Discord like yesterday, and you weren't there. So don't give him your spiel now. You fucked up, Story. Keith, what's up, fellas? I think the Jags drafted a few tight ends. They might be looking at a heavier personnel. You might be right about Parker Washington. So that's a good call from Keith. Shout out Keith, Patreon member. We love you.
Oh,
Who's going to see the field? If it's that was 2nd round pick, right? That was their first pick. Yeah. That was their first pick too, because they didn't have a first rounder.
Was it their first pick?
Yeah, they didn't have a first rounder. I think it was their first pick, 2nd round.
Yeah. Okay.
So who plays in 2 wide receiver sets? Who plays in 12 personnel? It's going to be Brian Thomas for sure, and Jacoby Myers, right?
Brian Thomas, Parker Washington.
Not Jacoby Myers.
No, I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah. Does he seem like a full-time player to you?
Parker Washington doesn't seem like a full-time player to me. He's a gadget guy, a really good gadget guy.
I'm like the way he performed last year, he definitely more than a gadget guy.
See, this is sorry, you're buying into the propaganda here, and this is like who was the biggest Parker Washington guy last year? I was talking about him so much. And the community just goes off a cliff here and saying he's a god when like he's fine. He's a good player. He's a 3rd wide receiver. He's a slot wide receiver. He is Josh Downs. Jacoby Myers can be used in all 3 receiver positions. He's like 6'2".
Yeah. I guess you're right. Maybe. We'll see.
Fuck you. No, I'm not. I can't guarantee it. I just look at the archetype of player. And like, I just think it's wild how everyone just like, no one was talking about Parker Washington. He was a nothing burger. And then, he goes off for 5 games last year. And now he's a god, like wide receiver 35 for Parker. What are we doing? Like, I love the kid, but it's a crowded room, and Brian Thomas is 1st round draft capital and had an elite season. Jacoby Myers is a proven veteran. That's a much bigger body, a guy that can actually play X. Parker Washington cannot play X, and he can't block.
He definitely cannot block. That is a bit of a problem. So maybe
that's the thing.
I guess if they want but they signed or they drafted a bunch they drafted Nate Borkershire to block. So what do they need Jacoby Myers or what do they need? What's his name? What do they need Parker Washington to block for?
What I'm saying, Story, is why did they pay Jacoby Myers $60 million? Or you're just saying the Jags are morons?
I mean, every team likes overpaying one player or another.
I'm saying I think I still want Parker Washington over Jacoby Myers, but at cost, when there's a 9 receiver difference, give me the cheaper guy in this case. The answer is Brian Thomas.
Okay. I mean, I told you I'm in on Brian Thomas.
Keith agrees. That's case settled, case closed. I think Brian Thomas and Myers are in 2 wide receiver sets. Thank you, Keith. Keith knows ball. Keith, you're going to finish up the next 7 divisions for us. Storey, you're on hiatus until further notice. I'm just kidding. I love you, Storey. He's reading something now. What are you reading?
Trying to find out if there's any hint about who's going to be playing in 2. Like if Cohen has slipped anything in any of these press conferences.
And yes, Myers is a good blocker. I know it doesn't matter that much, but like, I don't know. I think they paid the guy. They like Parker Washington too. What was Parker Washington, a 4th or 5th round pick 2 years ago?
Yeah,
he was in the 2024 draft.
Yeah.
Where did he go to college, Storey? You should know this.
Penn State.
Oh, he's a Jahan Dotson type.
Where did he get drafted? 6th round, 185th overall. What's his contract?
Wow, 6th round. You know, he's definitely outplayed that contract.
Yeah,
Cold Bath Baby, you're a big boy. Thank you, Cold Bath. Appreciate that. And I don't fit in tubs, so yes, I'm a big boy. I couldn't take a cold bath.
Oof, $4 million base this year. That's not a lot. But they are talking with him about a contract extension because he's an unrestricted free agent next year.
They're just going to pay all these guys and have a million wide receivers, and they still have Travis Hunter. What are the Jags doing?
I don't know. What's his name? Gladstone is the GM there, right?
I think so. You're the GM guy. You hate them all. They're all clowns.
They're all clowns. Every single one of them.
Yeah, they're all clowns.
Anyway, we'll circle back on this 2 wide receiver for Jacksonville set come week 1.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a little victory lap.
According to retailers, the most popular Halloween mask this year is O.J. Simpson, and the most popular Halloween greeting is "I'll kill you and that guy who's bringing over your glasses," or treat.
Or treat.
We got the hot tub guy in here again. We've missed you, man. Dude, that's a great joke you have. It's not played out yet, but maybe soon. He's always trying to take baths with my mom, and I keep on saying my mom's a shower lady. She's also 66 years old.
Oh
bro.
man, you got a troll again in here?
Yeah, you got to pay the troll toll to get in this boys' hole. You got to pay the troll toll to get in.
What's that from?
Want this baby boys' hole? It's Sunny, baby.
Oh, okay.
Danny DeVito. Told Baby Bath probably never seen that show because he's so concerned with trying to get in the bath with my mom. He's not watching great television. Come on, Cold Bath. Watch some better television and get some better jokes. Get something original. Come at me with something original, at least. I gave you a little airtime, though, so congratulations for that. You're famous. There's 11 people in here watching. You've hit the jackpot, man. You've essentially been on Price is Right. You know, you get that whole walk down. You know, what are your thoughts on Price is Right? Pretty relaxing show to watch.
I used to watch it. I mean, everybody did when homesick from school when you pretended to be sick. My wife still watches Price is Right, believe it, on the Game Show Network.
The old ones, right? You don't want to watch the new ones. You want to watch Bob Bartelt.
No, yeah, not the Drew Carey ones. Drew Carey ones are just boring. Like that guy was a great comedian, and he's so monotone and flat on Price is Right. I don't know what the deal is with him. No, the old Bob Barker ones.
Yeah, it's the best. One of my favorite cutaways from Family Guy is when Peter is all jacked up and he's trying to spin the wheel and he spins it so hard it like flies off and kills and runs over 20 people in the audience.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
What a crazy Bob Barker. He wasn't he never really made out with contestants. Who was the Family Feud guy, right? Dawson used to bang contestants
Dawson.
on air.
Have you seen the deleted scenes from Step Brothers? One where he's talking about how his mom, Brendan's talking about how his mom dated Richard Dawson, and Dale's like, what a slut. Like, cause he was kissing ladies all over the place.
Dude, and it was like tongue, right? It wasn't just a peck. Like he went in there.
He's another sex pest. Rest in peace.
Well, different times back then, man.
Travis Hunter just started wide receiver, rotate at defensive back. All right, so that's a new report.
You know what? All this is going to just do is make Brian Thomas be even cheaper, and I'll just take every Brian Thomas share at wide receiver 38. I think that's what I'm hoping to have happen because I don't think Travis Hunter is very good.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm crazy.
Big officer questions. Jags cornerbacks. Newsom. So Newsom's going into free agency next year, so they might want to ramp up Trevor Lawrence or Travis Hunter. One of the premier corners in the league. Breakout in year 2. I don't know. There's a lot of question marks about that wide receiver room. It's going to be tough to predict.
Yeah, maybe. We didn't talk about. We're supposed to be on the Titans, but let's go back one last time to the Jags and just discuss Trevor Lawrence, quarterback 10. Is that fair? Is that a fair price with the rushing upside?
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Like we had talked about, outside of the injury-ravaged season, he's had between 280 and 350 receiving yards every single year. I mean, how much more do you really want? I mean, I don't expect 9 rushing touchdowns again, but 4 or 5 is within the realm of possibility. So for a guy that's not a huge rusher but gets it done on the ground for the most part, with some questions at running back and plenty of talent at wide receiver, I think it's a fine quarterback. Remember when he was being drafted quarterback like 5'6" after his rookie year?
Ugh, wild stuff. I guess you've had enough. Great line from Bob Barker. That must be. It's actually probably what he's known for like Gen Zers, right? Is Happy Gilmore?
Oh, Happy Gilmore? Yeah, probably. He died, right?
Bob Barker is dead, I believe.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Dakota says better draft Tate early in the draft. I think he's referring to our dynasty draft.
This guy.
I don't think we're going to be. Would we take Colonel Tate Storey in dynasty? Because I don't like him, but I like his landing spot. I'm not a fan of the player like everyone else is.
Draft him in the first round, as far as I'm concerned.
I would maybe take him in the 4th round.
Or maybe this is just a general throwing it out into the ether for the universal. You better draft Tate early because he's going to rise up draft boards because he's a highly drafted rookie with a recognizable name from one of the premier programs in the Big Ten in the country. So maybe that's what Dakota's talking about.
Also, was a number 2, never was a number 1 in college. Not going to punish him because Jeremiah Smith.
He's the number 2 when Jeremiah Smith is on the other side.
Didn't he only have like 800 yards receiving though?
Yeah,
a lot of alligator arming too.
You sent me one clip that I thought he alligator armed it.
MVP, what an awesome guy. He is a member of the community. Popped in to say, Wemby a monster. What a game. I didn't see highlights of it. I saw the stats. And thank you, MVP. You're the man. That's a game. What, 41 and 23? That's 63 points, rebounds, and assists, or just points and rebounds?
No, 24 rebounds.
41 and 24.
Yeah.
Jesus, dude.
No triple-double because he only had 3 assists. But
how many blocks did he have?
3.
Oof. That's a game. That's a game.
That's bananas.
Thank you, MVP. Jonathan says, I said the same thing about Marv, too. Marv, that's my concern. Is that I know you disagree, Storey. You think that Colonel Tate was a better prospect coming out of college than Marvin Harrison. I say absolutely not.
I absolutely do. Marvin Harrison was bolstered by his pedigree. And I said that from year 1. I said that in 24. You can go back and check the tape. Check the tape.
You had Marvin Harrison ranked at like wide receiver 40 his rookie year, and everyone was ranking him wide receiver 10. It wasn't even a hot take. That's where you had him ranked in your rankings. And I said you were the biggest idiot ever. I didn't have him. I had him ranked below consensus. I'm just saying I had him at like 14 and you had him at 40.
Yeah.
So good call.
Yeah. Once in a while.
No, that's a big hit though. Like that's like, I've never seen anyone rank because it's almost no point because if you rank him at wide receiver 18 and he's consensus wide receiver 10, there's no chance you're ever getting him anyway. So no one would ever rank him that low unless you're doing like the accuracy contest. In that case, that would have probably won you the accuracy contest because everyone had him top 15.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you go back and think about where he was being drafted. And like it doesn't seem like it sullied the perception of rookie wide receivers at all. Because where did Egbuka end up being drafted last year? 6th round?
Yeah, end of 6, early 7.
Yeah, and for a guy that I would say of the 3 of Harrison, Egbuka, and Tate, I would say he's got the most unimpressive prospect profile. For him to be drafted in the 6th round as a rookie for a team on a team that had a ton of pass catching talent already. Remember, they had just drafted Jalen McMillan the year before. Godwin was coming back; he was supposed to be healthy. Mike Evans was there. Ty Johnson was there. Like him being drafted in the 6th round, that tells you something about rookie fever.
does. Jonathan says Storey is a boss. You are a boss. Before we log off, get a couple more questions in. I do want to shout out to the community. All of you fine gentlemen supporting the show. Appreciate everyone in here. You guys are the men. You guys know the deal. What I offer, a lot of good stuff. This is just part of it. You get access to the bets. You get access to the Discord. Community fantasy leagues. You want to come on the show, we do offer that as well. 96 and 58 last year. Professionalfanatics.com or link in the description for that. Hop in, get in the Discord, join the community, all these fine fellas. Also, shout out to Mouth. He has not been in here, but this is Downtown Sports, his program. 23 platforms. They're on YouTube as well. Just search Downtown Sports. And I do have a quick promo just for all of you guys that are in the community, a way to give back to me and give back to yourself. Refer a friend to the show, get in the community, and I'm going to give you a free month or 10% off of a redraft league you play with me, whatever you prefer. Give it all back to you. So not all of it, but a month worth back to you if you get someone in here. Get your friends in here. I know it's a disadvantage to have them getting this information, getting access to Storey and the Chaz and Nick O and Tom and Big Ray and all of us, Mouth. But why not grow the community, keep the show going for years and years and years to come, guys. So
that's where you can run over on your league mates. Like, hey, listen, I've been getting all this great information. If you want to keep up, you go here, and then you still slaughter them because they're not going to be as dedicated as the guys that have been in here since the beginning.
Right, they're not. And Storey, the Discord. What is it called? It's the
it's the place to be.
It's the place to be.
What do you call it, Kramer? It was. Come on, now, Rudy. Come on. We call it the place. The place to be. Yes.
All right, guys. We have our Dynasty Startup Draft tomorrow. Slow draft though, 4 hours per pick. So I'm still gonna do a stream with Mouth. We're gonna do a little underdog draft or two, but starts at 7. We had a lot of fireworks in this fucking league. Storey. We just made a trade today. We got a couple later picks, and we moved up. Well, we moved up to 3 overall. We had 12 and 13. We moved up to 3. We got a third rounder, and we moved up in the 7th and 9th, which it's a nine players in the starting lineup. It's a deep league.
Yeah, there's been a ton of moving of draft picks over the last 9 days or whatever it is since the league filled up. It's been difficult to keep up with. I guess the draft will be interesting to see. What do we decide on? 4 hours per pick?
Yeah, and it freezes from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Central Time. So there's 8 hours where the clock doesn't move. You can still make your picks. It'll move on, but it doesn't click for the next person. So how long do you anticipate this draft lasting? Like 2 weeks? 24 rounds,
Yeah, 2 weeks probably. Like it's only 4 hours. Like I've been in drafts that have 8 hours per pick, and that usual like 16, 17 rounds. So that one's tends to go a little faster. People are gonna start harping, even though we're not anywhere close to the season. Like people are gonna start come round 4 or 5. People are gonna be like, hey, let's start getting those picks in. You know what I mean? People are, even though from a game theory perspective, like if you really ascribe to the conception of, or the concept that knowledge is power, that the more information you have, the better decisions you can make, you would literally wait until the last possible second to make every single draft pick, because there's a possibility that information could come in while you're on the clock. Now, we don't play like that because that's annoying as shit.
That's more valuable later in the year, though, when you're doing a slow draft in August, because like guys will tear their ACLs. You know what I mean?
That I do subscribe to.
But it's better to wait, but let's not do that. Derek says Texas Two-Step, which is his team, will draft our first pick on Thursday because he doesn't have a pick until the second round. And then, Derek, it's just you're on the clock continuously for 4 rounds. So, I mean, you got to wait a while, and then Derek, you're just on the clock.
The pace of this draft once we start the second round.
Hats off to you, though, man. You worked those deals, and I would easily trade positions with you, and we haven't even drafted a player yet. But you know what, Storey? We have our brain power together here, and we haven't actually won a league co-managed together. We've had a lot of really good teams ravaged by injuries, and we always have a good regular season. Remember last year we had second most points and we missed the playoffs.
Yep, that's never fun. Last year was our last year. I felt really good about that team coming out of the draft, and things looked great. And then Tucker Kraft and Garrett Wilson, and it's just bad luck, right? Like second most points in that week, and we lose to the most points, and et cetera, et cetera. That's going to happen when you're talking about a one-off. Remember that one year we drafted Cordell Patterson? That was fun.
God, Cordell Patterson. Jonathan says the A.J. Brown trade June 3rd can be big for somebody to wait on. He won't be around that long, and I don't know. I think we're all just assuming he's going to go to the Patriots. I don't think his value – do you think his value really changes too much going to the Patriots?
Now? What position? Wide receiver what? 14?
No, a little later than that, like 17 or 18.
Okay, so that would put him where? In the 4th round?
Yeah, it'll be a little later in Dynasty because he's 30.
It might tick up a spot or two, but I think for the most part, that's the understanding that he's going to New England is built into his draft cost.
Dakota said, wow, y'all moved up for your guy. Who's our guy, Dakota?
Wink.
It does change Devonta Smith's position. I think we're all going to know. I think we're all just assuming I'm drafting Devonta Smith in best ball in all these leagues with the perception that he is the number one guy. Now, Dynasty is a little bit more of a leap than a $3 or $5 best ball, but I'm drafting him as if A.J. Brown's gone. I think we all are, right?
I am, certainly. Oh, I haven't done any drafts yet, but I certainly am drafting him as though A.J. Brown is gone. Like, just go to the prediction markets, like 90 to 95%. So, like, you're not going to go wrong by going with the wisdom of the crowd in these cases.
Yeah, Derek says, funny enough, Mouth made the first offer. We countered, but the juice of the deal was his offer. Well, you know what? He offered up his wife and his home, and you got a free house, you got his wife, you got everything, you got his bank account, he got your dog or something. Pretty cool. You got a nice dog though.
Well, there you go. I mean, good for him. Who gets like eventually Mouth is going to trade the rights to the Downtown Sports Podcast.
Yeah, that's all it's gonna have left. Fucking capital is just the podcast. Hey man, we can get ahead with that. I will offer a share in the show, in our show, to get something. Dakota says you think it's Gibbs. I think it's Gibbs. I mean, I'm fine with any of those players at pick 3. I don't care. We just wanted I think there's 4. If you want to count JSN, there's 5. I think there's 4 premier players, and I'm totally cool with any of those dudes. 12 and 13 was just a little sketch. We want a premier guy. We got to compete with Derek, guys. We got to compete with this fucking. Yeah. He's built a monster before a pick has been made.
We made a move to get to 12 and 13 because we had a really good plan for what we thought this year would look like. But Derek has shaken things up quite a bit, and we're not going to rest on our laurels. We had to make some moves.
Ooh, some insider information from Hetzer. So Jalen Hurts didn't attend A.J. Brown's wedding. Not sure if that means anything or not, as a wedding could have been family only, but damn, those dudes are for sure not close. That might be the final nail in the coffin if that's correct, you know?
Interesting. Speaking of offseason news, did you hear about Ahmad Hardy from Missouri? Got shot?
No.
Yeah. So he was almost certainly a first-round pick. He's a running back at Missouri. He was almost certainly a first-round pick in next year's NFL draft. A very, very highly touted future fantasy prospect. But we just got to hope
I did hear about that. Okay.
Yeah, we just got to hope that he gets back healthy. You know.
Storey, I have a question for you to end the show. Jalen Hurts just got married. We just learned. Do you think Jalen Hurts? You think he memorized?
AJ Brown got married.
Oh yeah, sorry. AJ Brown got married. Do you think AJ Brown memorized his vows, or was he reading them?
Simple Jack, the story of a mentally impaired farmhand who controls animals, was a box office disaster that many critics called one of the worst movies of all time.
Got a good brain.
I think you've got a fine brain, Jack.
You make me happy.
But now the question is, can speed...
Didn't get that joke. If you didn't understand that joke, AJ Brown likes to read in the sideline. It's a reading joke. It's terrible. It was dad joke-ish, but the clip saved it, I think.
Yeah, I think it saved it. Also, I forgot that Tug Speedman is watching that E! Hollywood clip there, and I think that's when he's starting to realize that it was not a good performance.
No. What I love about that is he has the cardboard cutout in his office, and like it's moving. He has that in his office. He's an agent. It's like the biggest bomb ever. It's about a mentally impaired farmhand who talks to animals. And just, dude, why would you have that in your office? It's like a Michael Myers cutout's cool. Like, there's a lot of cool cutouts. Like, that cutout just makes the little details make that movie, make movies what they are. And that's a great detail.
Do Simple Jack.
Yeah, right. Simple Jack. All right. Great show as always, Storey. You are truly the goats, and you make my job very, very easy hosting. I just breeze through this thing. I can just not really pay attention sometimes, and it always goes off smooth.
That's fine. You got to keep the people entertained and informed both times.
I think so. I think we do a good job at both those things. That's the whole goal here. Entertainment is huge because you're going to hang out with someone in May talking football, deep diving in a shit-ass division like the AFC South. You better have some entertainment because that division is not very entertaining, and it's also Maine.
It will get better.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. For Mike Storey, Rob Simmons, we love you guys. Love your life. Stay positive and respect each other. We are out.
You just seem like a good dude. I thought I'd see if you wanted to grab a beer, that's all. I'm glad you called. We get home safe, Pistol.
You got it, Jobin.
I'm sorry, what?
Nothing.
Oh, what'd you say?
I don't know. You nicknamed me Pistol, and I just called you Jobin. It means nothing. I'm drunk. I'm gonna call a cab.
All right, man. You have my number, yeah?
I got you stored in my iPhone.
All right. If